What's up, guys? Welcome back to Kind of Funny's Batman in Review. That's right. We are ranking and reviewing every theatrically released Batman movie. I got to say, I'm a little sad. This is one of the last times we're going to hear that amazing intro by Carter Harrell. Thank you very much, Carter.
For
of
now.
Course, shout out to Cameron Kennedy for doing the visuals. And yes, for now. We got the Batman coming out eventually. We'll see when theaters decide to open up again properly and all that stuff. But today, we're talking about the Joker. Before I get into that, I want to let you know that this is Kind of Funny's in Review. I'm Tim Gettys. That is Greg Miller. We got the big dog, Kevin Coelho.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
I'm upset at how good that was. We have Andy Cortez.
I got nothing.
We got Nick Scarpino.
Hey guys, how's it going? Oh, go, clowns.
Nailed it, Nick. I'm so
bringing the
happy
energy
you did
back
that.
up.
You can watch this show live on twitch.tv/kindoffunnygames, or you can watch it later on youtube.com/kindoffunny or roosterteeth.com. If you want to get the show as a podcast, just search your favorite podcast service for Kind of Funny Reviews, and we'll be right there for you. If you want to get the show ad-free, you can go to patreon.com/kindoffunny, just like James Davis at James Davis Makes, Andrew Feisner, Jeremy the Zuccarello, and the Simply Sassy crew did. Thank all of you for that. And if you don't want to get the show ad-free, that's cool, because we are sponsored today by What the Golf It's No Time, which is available now exclusively on Apple Arcade, but we'll tell you about that later. Let's get right into it. We're talking about Joker, released October 4th, 2019, which I am shocked by because that is not that long ago, but it feels like forever ago.
Sure does.
Directed by Todd Phillips, who began his career in 1993 and directed films in the 2000s, such as Road Trip, Old School, Starsky and Hutch.
Yep.
Which, Nick,
Classics.
I need a ruling on Starsky and Hutch from you.
I want to love Starsky and Hutch.
But like you can't, right? You can't. It was such a bad movie.
I went and watched it. I think I watched it like 6 months ago. It's fine. It's not. It's just kind of a missed opportunity.
You're crazy, dude.
It's no
Real quick.
Dukes of Hazzard. I'll tell
Real
you
quick,
that.
Kevin said those are
No,
bad
it's
movies.
way better than Dukes of Hazzard.
It's way
Shut
better
the
than
hell
Dukes of
up.
Hazzard. That's for sure.
Lies.
I have to side with Andy on this one.
Lies.
Is Road Trip a
Broken
bad
Lizard,
movie?
baby.
I remember Road Trip being good, but again, I haven't seen
I don't
it through
think
the
it stands
filter of
up
Nick as an
well.
adult.
I loved
over
Road Trip at the
time.
time.
I doubt.
At the time.
I
It's still
doubt
Euro
Road
Trip,
Trip
that's
aged well. I'm sure there's like a lot of
Yeah,
like
a lot of
homophobia
it.
and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But at the time, I always enjoyed Road Trip, and it was one of the more quoted movies that me and all my friends.
That was
had.
one of
I
those two
feel
that
like-
everybody had that DVD. That was a DVD that was
yeah.
like quintessential if you were our
How
age.
many-
Like somebody bought that.
Was American
Greg, how
Pie
many times
not?
you say "Unleash the Fury," Mitch? Unleash the Fury.
Unleash
the Fury.
I love when Tom Green sang to the mouse. It's
When he
what a movie.
like puts it in his mouth.
Yeah, it's so
I think there's a moment of visible like, why the fuck am I on this show when I had Anthony Rapp on We Have Cool Friends, and like he's been in Rent, he's done all this amazing on Broadway stuff, and I'm like, let's talk about Road Trip. He's like, all right, yeah,
Damn
Road
it.
Trip. I was in
Damn
that too.
the paycheck movie.
remember when there was that creepy guy that was like sucking on
That's
Amy
him?
Smart's toes?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is Todd Phillips, the director of the movie.
Oh yeah. He also has a cameo
That's
in Old
totally
School
totally normal.
Yeah, he's the guy
Cool.
who shows up for the
for
gangbang.
the orgies, yeah, or the
Yeah.
gaming.
He also directed School for Scoundrels, and then he came to prominence in the early 2010s for directing the Hangover film series. This movie, go for it.
I'm sorry. Do the rigmarole for the.
Go for it. Okay. Budget of $70 million, a box office of a staggering over $1 billion. The first R-rated movie in history to make $1 billion. Director Todd Phillips stands to earn up to $100 million from this film due to his participation deal that the movie has.
Good for
I'm
him.
not doing that again.
I know, right?
It's not gonna do that
Runtime
well.
Of 2 hours and 2 minutes for awards. Joker received numerous accolades at the 92nd Academy Awards. The film earned a leading 11 nominations, including Best Picture and Best Director, winning Best Actor for Phoenix, who became the second actor to win an Oscar for portraying the Joker, following Heath Ledger in 2009, and Best Original Score for Hildur Guadner's score.
So good.
Phoenix and Guadner also won at the Golden Globe and BAFTA Awards ceremonies. Go for it, Nick.
I'm just like so impressed by Todd Phillips with this because obviously, like, I mean, this is a 180 from what he's done prior. And they always say like comedy is probably the hardest medium to do. And for a guy that, you know, can hang his hat on both the Hangover series and Old School, which are two movies that are still hilariously ridiculous today. Like, it's just so impressive to me that he was able to step into this and just knock it out of the park. As far as like the drama of it and nailing the tone and just getting across what he wanted to get across thematically.
Who here has seen this movie before? This in review. So everyone except me and Andy.
I saw around the first 30 minutes of it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
Got too scary, had to leave.
No, I told this story. I was at my friend's house. I was back home in the Rio Grande Valley. We don't play no games now.
RGV.
Yeah.
And we started this movie, and he was like, yeah, I like it a lot. Check it out. And we started about 30 minutes in, and then he kind of left the room and walked back in.
He put face paint on it and came back
in. He left the room and he walked back in and was like, hey man, I'm gonna go to there's like some party happening. And I was like, oh, all right, well, I guess I'll just leave. So I just left.
Hey, why didn't you go to the party?
Because it was like with a bunch of his like coworkers that I don't fucking know. Like, I don't know who these people are.
Greg, I'm very seldom wrong. You know, we've talked about this a lot on this channel where I usually knock it out of the park. I got I'm 99%.
We do talk about this a lot on this channel, how Nick is seldomly wrong. But I remember, except for all the episodes we have of him apologizing for things he's done. But yeah, other than that, never wrong on youtube.com/kindafunny.
But it's one of those things where I remember when they announced this, I think I was pretty negative on it. I remember I think we were doing the morning show back when this was announced, and I was like, well, we don't need this. This seems weird. And I'm like, hey, Martin Scorsese, hey, Todd Phillips, like, stay in your lane. You don't understand the comic book genre. We've got The Dark Knight, okay? There's no possible way you guys could do anything that rivals that. And I'm not saying that this does, but I think this takes it in a completely different direction. And when I sat down to watch this last year, I think when it came to On Demand, man, I was just like blown away by what they did with the subject matter. And I owe Todd Phillips and Martin Scorsese a huge apology for that. Not for how much I hate The Departed, because that still is a garbage movie, but for the fact that I doubted them and they actually came at us correct on this one.
Well, so I actually have a question about that. What did Scorsese have to do with it? Because that was something that I remember him being heavily involved. And then when I'm looking into it now, it seems like he left the project fairly early on.
I don't know. I remember him executive producing it, but then you're right. I think when you watch it, he has nothing to do with it. I remember him
probably
just
how I got Bobby De Niro
through. Yeah, I think he just helped get the project made, but I think he left it. I don't know.
Nick, I think one reason why you were so down on it was when the news was coming out about what the movie was going to be about, and we were kind of leading up to it. And at one point, Todd Phillips says, I'm not going to do a Joker story that's been done before. Like, I'm not coming from source material. I'm not using anything like that. Those are some of the stories that leaked early on. And all of us kind of said, well, this is probably going to be good then. Like, we'll see how this works out, Todd Phillips.
Well, it was.
I remember having those discussions on earlier morning shows back in the day. It's
one of those things where you talk about, right? This is a movie that didn't need to be made. We already have great interpretations of the Joker. This is not the first time we've brought this character to the silver screen. So I remember thinking, like, this is a movie that's going to be it's going to be about the Joker. It's not going to have Batman in it, or at least we didn't think it would have Batman in it. It just seems like a weird one-off side story that we just don't need right now, specifically because we were like, we're knee deep in the Marvel movies and all those things. And we always talk about this where we always say, like, a good story, anything can be a good story if it's well crafted. And to me, my worry was that they were going to try and make the Joker this like heroic character like they tried to do with Suicide Squad, and I just don't think they did it very well with Suicide Squad. They did not try to make
guys.
They were close though. They were close.
Yes, they were close.
Slipknot, man, really hit me. He hit me right in the feels. I'm like, this guy's got it. He understands.
But I think they really I think they decided to go with this in a totally different direction, and you're watching a very, very dark, violent, very, very impactful film, and I think that was a smart choice.
If I may, I'd like to say, if fine, you go, Kevin, then I'll go.
I was just gonna say, I kind of feel like they still tried to do that though. Like, I feel like that a lot of this,
they didn't make him heroic. They made him sympathetic to the point where,
they made him. I feel like they made him like this idol that is idolized by all the people in Gotham, and like that for me is where this movie is like its weakest, where it's like how Gotham quickly adopts him and is like so strong and behind, like him getting pulled out of the car at the end. It just seems like such a ridiculous scene that's, like not very realistic to me.
Yeah, I can see that. And I think some of that breaks the reality a little bit, but I don't think they tried to make him, I don't see him as a hero or an anti-hero. I see him as the sort of like the face of a movement that is an incredibly violent movement that needed to happen and I think it fits like almost real life into the theme of like Gotham needs purging. Gotham is the city overrun. Remember, he drew from a lot of like those, like the New York in the 80s where it was like garbage strikes and all that stuff is actual real, events that he's
rats,
all that stuff. And so like, I think it just, you push it one step further and say, what would that be like in Gotham? And what would that be like in this world where you can go a little bit more surreal with it or a little bit more crazy with it as far as like how much you can push the bounds. And I mean, I'll agree, like the ending of it does seem a little bit fantastical.
But isn't that the best part of this movie in a lot of ways? Like what I love about Joker and what we've talked about, because if you remember back for Screencast, it was me, Kevin, and Joey, I think, who came to the table to discuss it after we went through a screener of it. And then I went and saw it again, and I haven't seen it. That was 2 showings back at launch, and this is my first time getting back into it. And coming into it even with more of the conversations that have stemmed out of it. What I think so special about Joker is the fact that it's a film you walk away from and talk about. And I think you all have different interpretations of. And I think from, the almost very beginning, if not the very beginning, they established that, I think it's, Arthur, when he gets pulled into the TV to be on the talk show with Murray, right? That this is surreal and things you are watching aren't happening. And they go out of their way to drive it home with his girlfriend that's not his girlfriend, right? In the apartment building. But even there's a question of that confrontation that happens in the apartment. Was that real too, or was that not real? Or because if what was the ending of that like, right? And they leave it open to interpretation. Well. There's we go back in his room and there's sirens and lights out there. Are those showing up here? Did that all happen in I think the whole movie has so many different things, which I know for many people is an out to sit here and go like, well, maybe that really didn't happen. But like, it is also that thing of, the riots are really happening. Murray references in that and says that's happening on the show. However, is it really on every newspaper for 14 weeks or whatever the hell it is like that? And maybe it is. I don't know. And, is the crowd that he's dancing in front of as big as that really is? Or did that happen at all? And he actually just did go to jail and he is in Arkham and that's him. Right. I'm not saying these are outs for it, but I enjoy that you sit there. Because I remember the next day on the screencast, or maybe it wasn't spoiler cast, maybe, or whatever it was. But I remember that thing of like, so do you think that he's Thomas Wayne's kid? Because obviously they say, no, he's not. She's crazy, yada, yada, yada. But then she has that line of like, no, he falsified those documents. And it is that thing of like, well, Thomas Wayne does seem powerful enough to do that. And do we believe that this version of Thomas Wayne is this like, exactly. The photo at the end, right? Of like, I love your smile or something like that, or whatever it is, TW. And again, maybe that's a forgery from her. Like we're given so much information in here without any idea of what's real, what's fake.
The idea that she was able to, adopt a child and things like that, like that was always the tell to me where I was like, that seems like that process would have been a lot more difficult to do for her, and maybe he was. And I love that, by the way. I love that we're getting an interpretation of Thomas Wayne as like a more, not black and white character.
Morally gray.
We always get Thomas Wayne who's like this, like, I'm a billionaire, but I've chosen not to be a billionaire. I've chosen to be a doctor instead. I'm going to be altruistic and I'm going to let the better people, smarter people run my company while I go off and save lives. And in this one, he's just complete. Like he is emblematic of what the theme of this movie is, right? Where he is just completely lost touch with reality of what everyday people are going through in this city.
Well, I mean,
he has that line where he calls him,
right?
Yeah, he's a dick. Yeah. I mean, he's not. I would say he's a dick, but I would say he's also just ignorant, right? I think he comes from a world where he tells people they've got to pull themselves up and make something of themselves. But that's a billionaire saying that, right?
And like it's what you're talking about, where he calls them clowns, right? And then the next interview they have with him is like, everyone's saying you called them clowns. He's like, I'm not saying everyone is. He has no PR, right? He doesn't understand how to deliver his message.
And so I love that, and I love that we explore that, and I just in general love the themes that are explored in this, right? Which is that sort of like disenfranchised people, the disparity between the rich and the poor, or the middle class, and how people have been forgotten and society has failed people. And then I also love that they touch on the themes of like the cycle of abuse and violence. And man, I don't think I picked up on it until this last time I watched it. But the last shot where he's laughing and she's like, "What are you laughing about?" He goes, "I was just thinking about a joke." And she's like, "Do you want to tell it to me?" He goes, "You wouldn't get it." And then it cuts to just Bruce Wayne as a kid standing over the body of his parents. And to me, I interpret that of like, it's just this cycle is going to keep going. It's going to keep going. And man, I said it before, but I would fucking love if they gave him a shot at directing a sequel to this, which is just called Batman. And it's just about Bruce Wayne and when what this did to him in a realistic standpoint, and not have it be a heroic tale at all, have it be a tale of, vengeance and, actual vigilante justice, and explore that too. I think that'd be really cool.
This being my first time watching the movie, I am surprised at how fine it is, where I actually really liked the movie, but I don't think it's good. And I feel like that's kind of at odds with itself, where I thought there was going to be a lot more discussion to be had. I thought there was going to be a lot more like interesting points. And I was expecting moments that were going to be like, oh shit, this is where it really jumped the shark in some people's minds. And I kind of failed to see those bits. And like what Greg was talking about, like not knowing what's real, it's fake. It's like, that's the type of thing that I do think that there's a narrative in this movie, like from the beginning to end. It's like you can follow along and you're like, okay, cool things happen. It's interesting enough. And all the themes and stuff are touched on in ways that I think are things we haven't seen before from these characters. And even though it's like similar, but different enough and more grounded, like even more grounded than the Nolan trilogy. But I think that when they add all of the, is this real? Is this not real? How heavy-handed the Zazie Beetz reveal of seeing all the times that he wasn't actually with her. I was like, I really don't like that. It's a little too much. But afterwards, I watched a video of people breaking down like theories and stuff of like what they think is real and not. And there's actually a lot of evidence that you can kind of come up with some really interesting things to what Nick's talking about at the end with the Batman idea and the whole want to hear a story or the joke thing. That going back to like Heath Ledger Joker style of there is no one origin. And it's like, you wouldn't understand the joke. It's every version of this story, of this origin story, is just him making something up. And there's a shot in the movie. Cool. There's a shot in the movie pretty early on when he's talking to the therapist that she's like, oh, when you were at the hospital last time, and it cuts and it's him in the hospital.
Yeah.
You know, it's happening real quick.
He smashed his head on the wall.
That's the only time we see him in that hospital till the end of the movie. And he's wearing the same clothes and stuff. And it's like this idea that wasn't like when they're at the Arkham State Hospital, is it really just Arkham Asylum? And is all of this just kind of, you know,
did he ever get out? Was he ever out? Yeah.
And the idea, when you look at it through that lens of this is a Joker that has potentially dealt with Batman, and this is his version of his Batman story of being a symbol. And to me, I'm like, that makes this infinitely more interesting, but that also makes it less good of a movie because it's like, well, that's kind of like the people adding stuff that I don't think that necessarily the directors were trying to like put in there. And I don't know. It's funny because the movie ended and I was just like, that was cool, but I can't believe it won Academy Awards.
Oh, I'm with you, Tim.
Sorry, go ahead, Eddie.
I'm with you. I think going into this, the internet has been so divided on this movie. And I feel like when the movie came out, people thought it was good and some people weren't into it. And then both of those sides said, you're an idiot for thinking that. So this movie then became the best superhero movie ever. And this movie became a fucking terrible film and one of the worst movies I've ever seen. And I watched this and thought, you know, it's a good movie. I think it's fine, just like Tim says. But I think it has a lot of like edgy pseudo fucking like intellectual type of shit kind of just driven into this movie. And I think there's a lot of parts in this movie that do remind me of like this, whoever made this movie probably loved the Boondock Saints and like just wanted to make a movie and make it super dark. And it's very like stereotypical in a lot of ways like that. But and I'm glad that a lot of the cheesier parts and cornier parts that I didn't like were sort of taken away because of the fact that, oh, none of that was real. There were a lot of the parts with Zazie Beetz, with her lines, that I'm thinking like, that's just not a realistic thing that anybody would say. And then none of that was real. And I was kind of relieved by those facts because that made me like the movie a little bit more. But I kind of agree with you, Tim. I enjoyed Joaquin Phoenix's performance in this quite a bit. I think the movie does a great job and in being very uncomfortable. I think it executes that perfectly. It's supposed to be uncomfortable. You're supposed to feel just kind of like you're never supposed to feel happy or comforted. Like it's not an enjoying movie to watch. I didn't enjoy any bit of this movie, but I still think it's a pretty more than fine movie. And I don't understand why the internet's so mad at it. I know that Todd Phillips and his remarks kind of made people hate this movie probably more than they probably should have at first, because Todd Phillips, Nick, if you don't know,
I remember.
kind of said, you can't make comedy movies anymore. He's kind of one of those guys. And that I think that sort of moves people's opinions in one way or the other on whatever he makes from this point forward. But I thought it was a fine movie. I enjoyed it. I thought that it was really uncomfortable to watch, and I don't ever really want to watch it again.
Yeah, for me, it's not. It's less about making a comic book movie, and I think that's what a lot of people maybe were reacting to. Because I think a lot of people thought, "Hey, we're going to go in, and this is going to be somewhat like Dark Knight, where there are action elements." No, he wanted to make Taxi Driver. He wanted to make a movie that was a real serious look at society and how it fails people, and watch someone devolve into sort of that level of mental illness. And he couldn't. I don't think he could get that done and have it be as important and as impactful and as widespread as far as audiences are concerned, without incorporating some level of comic book, like of the comic book genre into it. And I think that's where it could have gone either way for me. But I think I kind of give them kudos for what this does to elevate the genre, because to me, this means like, dude, if you can tell this story wrapped around the guise of the Joker, you can tell any story and have it be a legitimately impactful and intense an incredibly important experience for as far as I'm concerned. And granted, we saw that with The Dark Knight, but I think this pushes it even further, where it says we're actually not even going to have any of the action elements at all, and we're just going to tell this story, and it's going to be crazy.
It's going to be a light Taxi Driver.
This is actually pretty close to Taxi Driver if you've ever seen Taxi Driver.
Yeah, including like the ending. Just two more things I want to say. One thing that I really liked about this movie, the introducing the Joker's laugh as like a sort of mental condition,
right?
Like the uncontrollably laughing when it's not like the right response, was so good. And like, I don't know, it gives it so much purpose. And the moment in the train when he's about to get beaten up by those guys, it's such a like, you can like that is the best moment of acting that Joaquin Phoenix has in the whole movie, where he's just kind of breaking down, and like you can see that like he's trying his hardest to fight it, and it's just he can't control it, and he's about to get beaten because of it. And then the second thing I want to mention is my real biggest problem. I don't like the way they like the way that they portrayed like the riots or like protests turning into riots. And I just feel like with the time when this came out, it was, like just seemed kind of tasteless, or it was like all the people needed to be motivated was like a crazy person to be pushed further and take things from protest to like violent riots and like the streets ablaze. I don't know. That just always bothered me, because it's just like he's turned into a symbol so quickly, and we don't see that. So like we never find out why the city went from like 3 people got murdered on the train to like fuck those 3 people. We assume it's because the woman that was on the train said that like she was being harassed, and
well, it's because they work for Wayne.
They're Wayne people. They're rich.
Yeah,
they're
he came and protected him. He said these were good
white
people.
collars.
But then he also basically called every single person who was like
clowns,
poor clowns, and everyone said
that just
this
seems
is ridiculous.
so thin for like for people to be like fuck these 3 people.
Well,
that got murdered
because you have to remember
train.
like the city was it was basically at a breaking point anyway, and this was the straw that broke the camel's
Yeah, exactly.
This wasn't like everything was hunky dory and fine. This was everything's fucking like insane outside, and it's getting worse, and people are just getting their asses kicked all the time. If we see Arthur get beat up twice, and to the point where I was watching with my wife last night, and she was like, "Man, if these guys picked on me like that, I would think about doing some violence against them." And then of course when he hunts the guy down and shoots him on the stairs, she's like, "Okay, that's just murder."
Yeah,
but, that's just murder. But you feel for him. You feel that he is in this hopeless situation, and the only structure that he has that could help him is taken away, is just lost to him, and he has nothing to do. And then of course, what's he going to do? He's just going to slowly, go into the wrong direction.
Yeah.
I think one of the reasons I hear you, Kevin, and I understand that they don't focus on that, but I think it's one of the reasons the film stands out and is polarizing one way or the other for people, but it is looked at as something so different, is the fact that it's just unabashedly a character piece, and it's locked on Arthur the entire time. So you have to take away from, and again, what can you believe, what can you not, or whatever. But him, you know, in his first therapy meeting, being like, is it just me or is it getting crazier out there? And she's like, things are tense, and like there's the garbage strike and there's the thing of that, yada yada yada. I appreciate that in a weird way, this being a movie, and I guess because I just feel like most comic book movies aren't, but in a weird way, it's one where I want to get a beer with everybody afterwards and talk about what it was and talk to each other and understand what I didn't understand. Blah blah blah. Go on. Sorry.
The other cool thing that it adds is the like Thomas Wayne Joker thing that like really leaves you at the end being like, is he Thomas Wayne's kid? There's enough in there to have a conversation.
Yeah.
But to me, that's a comic booky shit that like some of like the Easter eggs and ties to Batman. I'm like, this movie would have been better off without them. Like that is a disservice because I like it being the story of a character coming to being a symbol, and like with all the riots and stuff, I think you say it's tasteless, Kevin. I agree with you, it is tasteless, but it's real as fuck. That could happen. And especially now what we've seen this year, it's like all it takes is for people to have something to kind of like latch onto. And the combination of this dude dressed as a clown that killed these people, that the people that are looking for someone to associate with is the guys that are working with Thomas Wayne. It's like all of that is like, oh fuck. And then for him to be on TV and to kill the dude, Robert De Niro, it's like, that's all it would take, you know? And it's like, that is such a perfect setup of this, then this, then this, but that all happened, and it happened quickly. And then we see the results of that. It's just a bunch of dudes in masks. And it's like, think back even to like the anonymous stuff that went on back in, you know, like around Dark Knight or Dark Knight Rises. And it's like, this is the scarier version of that. Andy from Kind of Funny, what's up?
I think I'm getting more to the side of I dislike all the things that we can write off as being in Joker's head. Because like anytime I think about a scene that I don't really like, or I don't like the performance, or I don't think what the people are doing is realistic, the other side of me goes, well, that could have just all been made believe. Like, you know, Kevin, I agree. I loved Joaquin's performance in the subway when he's laughing and the people eventually beat him up. But when the dude starts singing at him, I'm like, this fucking sucks. Like this is not anything that would ever happen. And then the other side goes to me, well, maybe it's all in his head, Andy. And it's like, I don't like that.
You don't think three drunk guys drunk on booze and power wouldn't do that? Like, fuck with that guy.
Singing. No. The whole singing part, like them walking up to him singing, like making a little show tune bit. I was like, what is this? This is stupid.
Well, he's dressed as a clown. I mean, I think that I found that I didn't write anything off as being in his head. The only thing that I really caught that I thought was like, oh, that's of course in his head is the Zazie Beetz stuff, just because I feel like that was the only thing really grounding him to reality. And once he came to the realization that, because remember, the only thing that he has kind of in his life that's checking him is the therapist, his mom, and then this burgeoning relationship with this person. And the therapist leaves him, he kills his mom, and the girlfriend was a figment of his imagination. And so once that's gone, he becomes untethered. And there's that moment, obviously, that we get that would be the equivalent to like Iron Man getting in the suit for the first time and being like flying, but it's such the opposite emotion where we see him walking down the hallway and he's dressed as Joker for the first time, like the real first time he's become this character. And then he does the stare thing where you're like, he's just gone. And you see the two cops up above him. It's just, I don't know. I just feel like
that was also another that was a very unrealistic part for me as well. Like the cops being up tall, like, hey, Arthur.
Let's let him do his dance first. But with Nick, I feel like there's enough evidence in this that like there has to be things in this movie that are
potentially,
in his head because I mean, by the fact that they show the Zazie Beetz stuff, it's like that is showing us like definitive proof that there must be other things that aren't reliable here, including like the multiple times with the talk show where it's like the first one didn't happen clearly.
Right.
Well, yeah, it was fantasy.
Right. Well, we know that though because we the way it's edited, you're supposed to think he's imagining that because it cuts right back to him when he's sitting on the couch and he smiles and kind of takes solace in the fact that one day maybe he'll get there. But everything else, like, I guess my point in saying that I don't need to write anything off as being in his head for it still to be impactful and for me to think that they actually still backed up all the themes that they were exploring. Like,
I guess
whether or not
wants to write them off though because some of them are bad. I think like part of me wants to write off the things I don't like because it could possibly be in his head, and I'm just trying to make excuses for the movie in some parts.
I get it. Totally. And I think I also think there's parts of Joaquin Phoenix's performance that were a little bit too far. They should have dialed him back. I don't particularly care for the movements that he does. To me, I'm not quite sure what he was going for in that. And I think it kind of takes away from it. I think it's a lot more haunting to have him just stare at himself in a mirror than it is for him to do like weird Tai Chi stuff.
The weird dancing.
Yeah, I didn't like that stuff. And I think I just think some of it could have been dialed back, but I had obviously some criticisms of The Dark Knight in as far as some nitpicky stuff there too. But overall, I think the impact of this film really got me. And I think to me, it's one of those things. It's like Greg, it's like reading that anthology that you wrote on for the Joker stories, right? Hey, what's up? Some of them are. I mean, to me, it's like it's interesting to just explore those. It's interesting to step into that world and just see a different take on this. And whether you like it or not, I'm super happy that they ended up doing this, and I'm glad it did well, because maybe this has, hopefully Matt Reeves watched this and said, hey, maybe I can take some of the intensity of this and the realisticness of this and actually like explore some themes that matter and wrap the Batman story around that.
I have one for you. Chris TV 93 says you aren't supposed to be rooting for the Joker in the Twitch comments right now. Were any of you ever rooting for the Joker?
No.
Andy said the exact same thing I said in the screencast, right? Of like, I remember reviewing it with Joey and Kevin and being like, I don't think this is a movie you enjoy. And I know that it sounds weird, but I remember that first time in the theater being like this, like just fuck, like, you know what I mean? Like locked in, you knew where the roller coaster was going, but you were going. Yeah, exactly. It's like
watching a Safdie Brothers movie, right? Where I just watched Good Time again. It's the same thing where you're supposed to watch this character and be screaming, please stop. Or can somebody help him? Or like, and I think that's why this movie is so special to me, is because I watch this. I'm not rooting for the Joker to go kill these people, but somehow they did a good job at me thinking at least like I see why he would do this. I'm not condoning it, and I want him to stop, and I don't like the violence, but I want someone to help him, and nobody can. He's either been forgotten or abused or beaten or any of these things, and this is what you get. You're supposed to feel at the end of this that if we fail people fundamentally, riots will happen. And like that's I think that was the point of the story.
Real quick, I want to bring Kevin in, but I do want to say this one thing. I think that's what's you get into there, Nick, is that I was never rooting for the Joker, but I was at times rooting for Arthur. And I know that's a fine line. I don't mean when we're talking about murdering, or we're talking about inciting riots and doing that stuff, that's Joker, right? But you see Arthur in there, and you have like, even when he talks to Murray at the beginning of like, you know what, I'm a good son, and like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm meant to bring joy. Like, you see in there, like, okay, like at your core, you're not trying to be a horrible person. Again, it is what the world's pushed you. It is the condition, how people receive it. It is everybody at work picking on you. It is all these different things. In there, there's a person who I think wants to be good and just wants to be loved and wants the father figure and yada, yada, yada. Kevin?
I was just going to say, I wish that he had a little bit more agency in this. I feel like everything that happens to him is like pretty much by chance, and him reacting. And a lot of times his reactions are like poor. The Joker that we know is like the nemesis of Batman, like one of the smartest men in the world, right? And like so much of what happens to Joker, like, is not him planning or anything. Like, we just don't see that like genius level Joker that like, the Dark Knight did such a good job being like, this guy's thinking every step ahead and making plans and stuff, and like he's doing it in a way that like no one can tell, And with this,
I don't think that's this Joker, right? I think this Joker was just, it's an exploration of how someone could get to that point. And I don't see this Joker as being the traditional, hey, I'm gonna rob a bank with all my goons dressed as clowns, and like we're gonna do, like, to me this Joker is a little bit more closely associated with the Heath Ledger, like chaos Joker. But there's a line in this movie that
was Heath Ledger that you're describing. Like, that was the first scene of Heath Ledger, robbing the bank with all his goons dressed up. As himself, and him killing
what
them.
I meant is that I think that the more chaotic aspects of that Joker, I think, that is what this one kind of represents a little bit more to me. But to me, it's just like, I don't see this Joker as being the Joker we've ever seen before. To me, I see this as being like, what would he be like if he were running around the streets? Well, they would lock him up. He would get locked up. I don't see him getting out of that. But like, I don't see this Joker, and maybe this is to the detriment of the film, but I don't see this Joker ever fighting a Batman on a rooftop someplace.
Bruce Wayne's parents still die. It's like, that's the thing, is like, I'm so with you, Nick. It's just like, but then they still have these elements where it's like, well, then
See, that
Are
was
you not the Joker?
Yeah,
that
but
was
see-
with me.
but
I'm with
see-
Tim on that one, where I thought that was the one that went over the meter. I remember in the theater
but
when
that's the best part of the movie. Sorry, Greg, continue.
out in theater, he gets on the train, he rolls up, and I'm like, are they going to Wayne Manor? And they go to Wayne Manor, and it's just the exchange at the gate, and then it's over, right? And then when the riots break out, and Thomas and Martha come out, I'm like, why would they be there? They're smarter than to go downtown in the middle of this fucking shit happen. And then they go around, and I was like, don't show it. They show it, and it's like.
Yeah.
But
That
see,
was
to
too
me-
much for me.
To me, that's the point, right? So we have a character that we're with the entire time Greg, you said you're rooting for Arthur, right? And there are two characters in this, is Arthur and Joker. So Arthur is a kid who doesn't remember his childhood because he was beaten so severely that he now has a brain condition. They alluded this, right? They talk about how he was like, they found him chained to a radiator.
Mental
Yeah,
And that
condition,
even his little card says it could be because of
Trauma.
trauma to the head or whatever, right? So he grows up abused, and then he gets pushed too hard, and then he abuses people. And then one of those people that he abuses, or because of his actions, that cycle starts over again with a young boy named Bruce Wayne. And that's the whole point of this. Like, I think they were, whether you like it or not, I think they wanted to tell this story, and the only way they could do it is wrap it around the elements of Gotham. And I give them kudos for that, because yeah, they're bending a little bit of it to fit in with what our perception of these stories are. But like, this movie made $1 billion, and it's a movie about mental illness. So think about that, right? Like, what's the last movie that explored this subject that had anywhere close to the cultural impact that Joker did? I can't really name one, because this movie it was huge. So to me, I think you have to have that scene, because I think you have to put it in context to the greater comic book audience, right? They have to see how that cycle happened, and we know that, right? And we've seen movies also that explore Batman's darker side. We're like, why is he doing this? Why wouldn't he just take his billions of dollars and help the city that way, instead of going out every night and beating the shit out of people? And I think you see the origins of that here.
I think this movie just made a lot of money because it's Joker, and it was something that was better than anything DCU had been putting out, and people just got excited because they know the Joker, and they remember how badly Batman vs. Superman was reviewed, and they remember how badly Justice League was reviewed. So this was like kind of a breath of fresh air for a lot of comic book fans, coming off the heels of, well, not coming off the heels, but nearly a decade later after the memorable Heath Ledger performance, and then hearing this is almost as good as that, because that was certainly in the media, people saying like, holy crap, what, like, I can't believe they did it. I can't believe they made a Joker that was actually good. And I think that news just got around. I think that's why the movie made $1 billion. I don't think it has to do with whether it was about mental illness or not. I think people were just stoked to see something that was better than
you're proving my point, right? Which is
DCEU.
that they told a really good Joker story, but they sort of inceptioned an actual really impactful movie about mental illness with it, right? And I think that was what Todd Phillips has talked about that in interviews, where he said, I wanted to tell a story, but the only way I could really do it with a budget that I wanted and get eyes on it was to wrap it in this comic book genre. And so I think what he did was he wrote this amazing story, and they wrote this, they wanted to tell this great story, and they said, how do we actually get this thing funded? Great. Well, what if this character, who is basically the guy from Taxi Driver, what if he were Joker? Well, that's an interesting angle. Let's explore that angle and kind of shoehorn that in a little bit. And I will say, like, some of the elements did feel like a little shoehorned in, but I think that was sort of a necessary evil to get that story across. And like, I want to bring up this quote before we go on, that I think is the most important quote of the entire movie, right? He's sitting writing in his journal at one point, right before he's about to have that sort of like that turn for the worse. And he says, the worst part about having a mental illness is people expect you to behave as if you don't. And that's like, that right there should tell you guys, like, holy shit, like, that's an unbelievable thing for a character to like explore. And then he gets to a point where he's like, I'm tired of telling people that, like, I'm tired of trying to fit in. I'm tired of trying to pretend like I don't have this. I'm out. I'm done. And I just thought it was so good.
Before we move on, I want to tell you, this episode is brought to you by What the Golf. It's snow time. Kev, if you can bring up the video, that would be fantastic. Greg Miller, what do you have to say about What the Golf?
What the Golf is crazy. It's fun, and the people who made it are even crazier than the game is. I want you to know, the Game Awards, I had to talk them out of rolling golf balls down the red carpet and making people trip. That's the thing. If that's what they wanted to do to promote the game, think what will happen if you don't play the game.
What the Golf, It's Snow Time is available now exclusively on Apple Arcade. Triband, the developer behind the hit game that Greg's talking about, What the Golf, think that hitting things and seeing them fly is by far the most fun part of the timeless sport. And I can agree with that. even if I don't know how to properly play golf, it's always fun to hit things, right? And this game lets you hit a whole bunch of things, including hot dogs. They get crazy here. They get absolutely crazy. The only thing you can count on in this winter-themed Apple Arcade game is constant laughs alongside the goal of golfing just about any object imaginable. It has 30 new levels, snow scientists, and a limited edition winter trophy. What the Golf It's Snow Time delivers winter-themed comedic gameplay for mobile gamers of all ages. What the Golf won a bunch of awards, like Greg's talking about. It won Best Mobile Game at Game Developers Choice Awards, GDC 2020, and Best Mobile Game at IGN's Game Awards in 2019. What the Golf It's Snow Time is available now exclusively on Apple Arcade. Back to it, Andy. You had something to say.
Plot. Oh no. Plot time.
Yeah, boy.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Joker. We start with Joaquin Phoenix painting his face in the mirror in his little clown dormitory. Over the radio, we get a whole thing about, I guess what's happening. Garbage strike continues. There's trash everywhere. It's a public health hazard. All hell's breaking loose. One of the things we haven't talked about because we're so hung up on performance and story and message in this movie, which is true. Something I want to comment on is being such a great period piece for a period that doesn't exist. Obviously, what Gotham City would look like in the early 80s, late 70s, but the way it's shot, the way graphics are done, it's more towards the back, obviously, when they pop up with like credits for it or whatever, makes the entire thing feel like it's actually pulled from that era of cinema. Nick, I think you'd be the one to correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels like a movie that's late 70s, early 80s. It's got this grit. It's the New York before Giuliani cleaned up Times Square and all that shit going, and let alone the color palette. I think the
color palette's fantastic. It's just like the design in general, I think, is definitely
Tim brought up also the fact that I think the music, the composers won an Academy Award for this, but the score is so haunting in this, and it's perfect. It perfectly backs up the visuals.
Unsettling.
Yeah, I'd say like even though I didn't necessarily love the movie, I think the cinematography was amazing.
Beautifully. It's
shot amazingly. I love the colors used. I love just I don't know. I think they did a really good job crafting the movie just in terms of visuals.
Yeah.
Arthur's there putting on his makeup. Then he starts doing the infamous, frowny face, smiley face thing. Yeah, Kevin.
Do they mention the rats in the news?
Yes.
At a certain point.
Do you guys see the article that came out like 2 days ago?
No. We got super rats.
Yeah, they got like in New York, they got like cat-sized rats, big rats.
That's terrifying.
It's terrifying. I just wanted to bring that up. That shit's real. Watch yourself.
Kevin, when are you gonna send Cecil to fix the problem over there?
Airdrop him in. Rats, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. You
He's
know
got
what I mean?
little
Cat size. Exactly. You can see it just like I can. The parachute on him as he comes off on his vest. Yeah, right. Eventually, though, Arthur obviously has one tear rolled on his cheek as he is already teetering and not in a good place. From there, he's out on the street doing his clown job where he's spinning a sign, trying to get people to come into this place that's going out of business, and he's being all cute about it, and it's upside down, and he's really funny. He's a great clown. However, some stupid kids roll by and they want to be jerks to him. They grab the sign, they run with the sign. He chases them through the streets in his giant clown shoes. Again, we see trash piled up everywhere. We see a very gritty Gotham City that's falling apart. They cut down an alleyway, and the sign that's clearly made of like styrofoam or whatever becomes like solid wood or whatever, and they slam it into Arthur. He goes down. They all run over. They start kicking the shit out of him. This is where we get the giant splash Joker that I remember being in the Alamo Draft House and how blinding that was when it popped up on opening night. Or I guess I saw it in AMC and then saw it opening night at Alamo. It doesn't matter. From there, we're at Arthur's first therapy appointment. He's there with a Dr. Kane, smoking a grit, talking about how fucked up things are outside, being, what do we think of this guy? We don't know yet. What's going on with him? What's his life? She asks him some questions, but eventually wants to see his journal. He laughs. She's like, I told you to do this journal. You need to be doing this journal. So he whips out this journal. He's been using it also as a joke diary. And I like how he's like, I believe I told you I'm pursuing a career in stand-up comedy. She's like, no, you did not. And then she pages through it with the, terrifying scribbles, the porno pages pasted to it, all this stuff. Like, it's already setting up how jumbled his brain is and what's going on there. And in there is the thing of, I hope my death makes more sense than my life, spelled like money or whatever. It's like, oh man, what's going on? This is not good. He wants to up his medication. She's not about that, of course, but he just wants to not feel so bad all the time. From there, we're going to do the bus ride back to Gotham. Arthur, there's this little kid in front of him. Arthur starts doing crazy faces to him to make him laugh. The mom gets mad and turns around. She's like, stop, pestering my kid. He's like, I wasn't pestering your kid.
Total overreaction.
Total, total, of course. But Arthur tries to explain, but can't. It's an uncomfortable situation. So he starts doing his weird Joker laugh. As Kevin said, super off-putting and creeping, and he has this weird like gasp rattle. You know what I mean? When he does it, it's just like so off-putting and things. But he hands her a card that says because she's like, "What's so funny?" You know what I mean? This will be a running theme throughout the movie, and it's a card is like, I have a medical condition causing me to laugh at times when it's not appropriate. Sorry. I like how it says, "Kindly return the card," because it's animated. He has to give it out multiple times a day, obviously, since he has this. And like Nick said, it says something right about brain conditions, neurological conditions, which obviously is another thing that's never fully explored, but brought up here. And obviously, Arthur's got something going on.
I agree with Kev. This is one of my favorite elements of the movie is tying the laugh into the actual character and making it a real thing that's not just him being an asshole. And
totally.
There are multiple times in the movie that you can't really tell if he's laughing or crying, and it's kind of like him trying to fight through it. And it's like that combined with the idea of the card and him not wanting to be this way is just like that. It's so dark,
So like this whole thing here, in my mind, and I of course am no film studies major, is showing how bleak and oppressive Arthur's life is. Right? He, let alone having to go, getting your ass kicked, having to go to a doctor that's not too super interested into it, and then having to take this bus ride back to the city. Then you get to the city, you go to the pharmacy, but there's trash piled up outside. There's all this stuff written on the walls already. You get your mom's medication. There's the infamous stairs that we all know from the Watto drawing or Watto creation, Andy Photoshop.
Yeah, that's where.
But we see. I think it's twice in this film, right, where Arthur walks up those stairs, and I mean, like you see Joaquin Phoenix's performance, right, where it's just the weight of the world on his shoulders, and I think that is why, even though we were joking around about the cops or whatever, watching him dance on the stairs later on, when he comes down the stairs, when Joaquin Phoenix goes from being Arthur to being Joker, and I think honestly having like the nothing, he has no strings attached, he's just dancing. I think that's why that scene is so not only off-putting but powerful in the way that like this is not what we've seen portrayed throughout the film. But we'll get to
the fall. It's him going down.
Exactly, Tim. A little on the nose, you know what I mean? But we'll give him credit for it, you know what I mean? He goes up, he goes in to check the mail. There's no mail. Mail will be important. The mail's in a giant like cage too, by the way, because they're not in a great part of Gotham, if there is such a thing. He gets on the elevator, and then is it Zazie Beetz is what this woman's name is?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She is like, oh, hold the elevator. She runs in and gets in there. Arthur stands there and doesn't say anything to her. Elevator gets stuck for a hot second. She's like, man, this place sucks, or whatever she says. And then her child starts parroting back, like, doesn't this place suck, mommy? Doesn't this place suck? She's like, yeah, honey, it does. And she makes eye contact with Arthur and does the blows her brains out kind of thing. Elevator, gets going. They get off the elevator. She turns to go to her apartment, and he's like, hey. And then he does a very dramatic rendition of getting his brains blown out. She's like, all right, cool.
She's like, well, okay.
She's so awesome, man. I want to give her a shout out. She's the main character, one of the main characters in Atlanta, and God, she just nails it. And she's also in Deadpool 2, but Atlanta specifically she's fantastic.
Oh, she is in Deadpool 2. Okay,
yeah, she's
Domino. No, I know who she is. Yeah. Luck isn't a superpower. Yes, it is.
I'm glad you said Domino, because I didn't know what I was. I was like, a polka dot? No, what is she? Like, I could not think of
polka dot.
Polka dot's here to help out. From there, we get a look into Arthur and his mother's life, Penny. They live in this apartment. It's not that great of an apartment. There's crap everywhere. Penny keeps asking if he checked the mail. He did check the mail. She wrote to Thomas Wayne. He's like, why would he do anything for us? Because she's like, if he saw how we were living, he'd be horrified. You worked for him 30 years ago, and I'm probably mixing and matching a little bit, but let me go. Let me have some artistic liberties, Kevin. Get off my ass, Kevin.
What?
God.
I'm sorry. What?
And so
sold in New York.
he makes some food for her and a TV dinner, walks it in, puts it on there. Then Murray Franklin show starts. They get all excited. He pops off his shoes and sits there, and you can tell like this is their nightly ritual. This is like his solace. And Murray Franklin comes out, and it's the one and only Bobby De Niro. You know what I mean? We're fresh from the Tribeca Film Festival. We're out here to do some stuff. Nick,
has anyone seen The King of Comedy?
No, but everybody always says that this movie is a direct ripoff of that.
Well, it's an homage to it, obviously, because I think I've never seen it. I tried to watch it the other day, and I have to be honest, it's difficult to get into. But Tim, you said you've seen it.
Yeah, I had to watch it in school.
Does this this is sort of an homage, right? Because he in the King of Comedy,
it very much feels like a
yeah.
ripoff.
Okay.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like it's definitely a mix of Taxi Driver and King of Comedy, just kind of mixed, and then like, oh yeah, there's Bruce Wayne's here too. Is really kind of how.
And also Bruce Wayne, kids.
Yeah, but I did not know Robert De Niro was in this movie. And I was like, holy shit, that's awesome. And him as a talk show host, I'm like, I'm vibing with this because like the design and style, colors, all the things we're talking about. Having Robert De Niro as the talk show host, I'm like, oh, y'all nailed the cast.
I thought he was awful. I thought he was awful. Yeah.
I like his when he sits down. I like Robert De Niro, and I think backstage when he's just being Murray and he's got the glasses on and he's talking to him, and you want to be called Joker, that's fine, whatever. I think all that works, but yes, something about him as the talk show host is so jarring. Where even his like hand motions don't seem like, and maybe it's just that I can't get over it as Robert De Niro, and I don't think Robert De Niro would do that. And then when he sits there, but the interview with the Joker on the set, he's like, "You think this is funny? I'm gonna," and it's like it's back to what you were talking about earlier of Andy of like so much of this is not believable.
I'm convinced that 90%, if not more, of the talk show stuff is not real. And I think that them setting it up that from the first get-go that the talk show stuff's not real, I think none of it is. Because like, why would a talk show host have this YouTube style video of him bombing at the stand-up show? Right?
Goes.
Like that's just not how stand-up
how. Well, my time out there, my leap of logic not explained to me at all is that I would think that we already know that Pogo's is filming it. We see it on the closed circuit TV when we're there. I would assume that someone there records the stuff and sends it to Murray Franklin to be like, "Hey, this guy would be good for the show." And I'm sure for Arthur Fleck would be like, "Hey, look at how horrible this guy is."
I see the discussion in our chat, and one person said it's supposed to be very Johnny Carson.
Yeah,
and I totally agree with wasted bandwidth reply, which is De Niro's bad casting if they're going for Carson. I think it's not necessarily the character. I think it's just De Niro's portrayal of what this character is supposed to be. I think there could have been a lot of better choices. It didn't feel. I don't know. I just wasn't into De Niro being in this movie at all.
I think they chose him because obviously when you cast Robert De Niro, it legitimizes a project fairly well. And I think they also chose him because of the two references we mentioned before, which was the two main pulls that they have for inspiration for this movie are Taxi Driver and The King of Comedy, both of which starred Robert De Niro. And so I think they thought this was going to be an interesting kind of role reversal flip and an homage to those two. But I'm also, unfortunately, with you guys, where I just don't think. I think he stands out too much as Robert De Niro and doesn't really nail that character. And I would have liked to have seen someone who wasn't so. I mean, for me, it's hard though to see these guys that are like Pacino and De Niro who was so permeated film over the last like four decades or 5 decades for me. Mm-hmm. That 4 decades actually I haven't been allowed 5 decades yet. Kevin,
get off his ass.
I don't know. My mom has some theories.
Ship Cecil to New York State restaurants right now. But I'll agree with you guys. Like these are the elements that I wish they had a different actor too, because he kind of pulls me out of it a little bit in some of these scenes. And it's no disrespect to Robert De Niro. Love you.
No. I mean, he's an icon. You know what I mean?
He's watching this on his phone. And he's like, God damn it.
He's like, Andy, give me what Robert De Niro would react to that. Me just saying that.
You talk about me? You talking about
great? Me? Oh my God, Andy! Andy! Oh my God! Anyways, we've already kind of covered this, right? Arthur envisions himself in the audience, envisions himself saying, "I love you, Murray." And he's like, "Who said that? Turn up the lights." And then Arthur stands up. People start laughing at him when he talks about living with his mom. Murray defends him. Murray, he does the whole thing about wanting to bring light and happiness to everybody. Penny will continually call him happy throughout the movie. Murray brings him down. He's like, "All right, we got a great show." And he turns around and hugs him and stuff. That really touched me. Like, and I'd be proud to have you as a son. Then we're pulled back out of the TV into just Arthur and Penny watching from Penny's bed. And you see Arthur smiling there because he's just daydreaming about having a father and knowing Murray on that level, taking their connection to the next level. From there, it's the jump cut, right? Boom, right? From this really happy moment, or one of the few happy moments in this movie, to Arthur's mangled and bruised back. The physical transformation Joaquin Phoenix did. I don't know if you have facts about this in terms of how much weight he lost or anything like that.
Yeah, I think he lost 30 pounds for it, which for him was a shit ton, like a very high percentage.
Yeah, exactly. And so he's hunched over working on his clown shoes to get everything set up in there.
To me, I didn't like these. I didn't like that they chose to focus on his emaciated like body so much. because it kind of at a certain point was like, we get it. He really starved himself to do this. And I don't know. I feel like that was, I feel like it was not necessary for, I guess it's backed up later where they have a couple lines where she's like, you didn't eat. And he has some issues with that as well. But like, I was just like, one scene would have been good, but they just keep going back and forth to him being shirtless. And I'm like, we get it. He got really skinny for this. Let's move
It's
on.
Oscar bait. He had to win the best actor. That's how you do it.
I totally agree with Nick, where I think it's just one more thing to make this character seem more dark and deranged. And it just adds to like the edginess that they were really trying to hit here. It's one more little factor and one more aspect of the movie that I go, all right, we didn't need this. I don't know.
Don't get me wrong. I appreciate what he did. And I do think the character should have been emaciated like that, because if you're on that many, psychotropic drugs and you're depressed and you've been abused and all these things, like you're probably not thinking too much about food, and he also smokes a lot and things like that. So I get why they decided to go that route with the character, but I think that the cinematographer or maybe Todd Phillips fell in love with seeing that, like how shocking that is as an image. And I think they just overused it a little bit.
Andy, hit the song. We got to rank them.
Were they born in labs? Now it's time to rank those abs.
Damn you, Tim. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Rank Those Abs, starring Nick Scarpino, Andy Cortez, Greg Miller, Tim Gettys, and Cecil the dog. No, just joking, Gabby's not back there. I mean, the dedication that it must have taken to get to this is ridiculous to me. So kudos to him for that. But this is not a healthy look. I do not recommend anyone try to mirror your physique after this. Also, what's going on with Joaquin Phoenix's shoulders? Like one of them looks like it got broken a long time ago or dislocated, and it never kind of went back.
Yeah, it's like it's up there.
Wasn't he like? I think
pointy.
He's because he's forcing
kind of hunching, right?
Yeah, he's kind of hunching it over. What was he doing with his shoes?
I think he was stretching them out. I don't know.
I do think that obviously the abs rank very, very low because you are given points when you're skinnier, your muscles
right.
show a little
Tom
bit easier.
Holland,
but
unfortunately ranked lower on our list if you guys remember, because he's just naturally skinny. So that's no disrespect to Tom Holland, but have you seen Chris Hemsworth lately?
Jesus Christ.
Did you see that thing, him pushing that tire?
Holy hell.
Holy God shit.
Damn. You know who I will throw on this list? And it's totally unrelated. Abed from Community. Because I just saw the episode where he has his shirt off. I was like, wow, he's like ripped. So I'm throwing Abed from Community in this episode.
Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, number one, Abed from Community.
Let's not just start adding random people to this list, please.
That's what we do.
Cinemaniac in the chat says, lol, this is sort of tasteless. And I'd like to say, welcome to In Review. He's stretching out his shoes, he's doing his thing, and then the dude, I got the cast list, Randall, who's Glenn Fleshler from Boardwalk Empire. He comes in, he's all like, hey, how's it doing, boys? He's like that. He's that big clown. He's the big dude clown. You know what I mean?
Oh, he's also the crazy killer from. Oh, spoilers! From Two Detectives. He's
wow.
That's good point, just about to watch that season.
Yeah, that's a great point.
He was also, I think he's the lawyer on Billions. Also, if you guys want to watch him, that he's good.
He's also here. No, he comes in and he walks over eventually to Arthur and he's like, "Oh man, Arthur, sorry about. I heard what happened to you. You got your ass kicked out there. That sucks." And he's like, "You know what?" And he walks to his thing, his little brown paper bag. He's like, "This is for you," and it's a gun. And Arthur's like, "I'm not supposed to. I'm not supposed to have these." And he's like, "No, I'm looking out for you. You're my pal, Arthur. Blah blah blah. One day you'll pay me back for it. I'll figure out something to pay me back for it." At the same time, Gary walks in. Gary comes in, and then of course Randall starts dumping all over Gary, of course, right, for being a little person. And he's like, and then Arthur laughs along, and he's like, ah! And he does a really annoying laugh and he's laughing in the correct situation, which we'll see later. He doesn't understand how to do, but he's laughing just to get out of the conversation and to whatever be on Randall's side for a second. And then he walks back, and as soon as he turns the corner to go talk to the boss, the laugh just dies. He just kills it, and I think that's such a fucking great scene. He walks in, the boss starts giving him shit about stealing the sign. I didn't steal a sign, I got jumped. Why would you? That doesn't make any fucking sense. Who would jump you for a sign? And Arthur just sits there and smiles and takes it. And we kind of just hear the boss drone out. And then we start hearing this like kicking noise. And then we cut to Arthur outside kicking a bunch of trash, just beating up these trash bags, eventually falling down in the gutter and surrounded by trash.
But also, boss, why would he steal a sign? Like, come on, that's another one. Like,
he's got a sign collection. Everybody knows he has a sign collection.
When you have to take care of all the financials for a company like that, and you just got a bunch of clowns coming in and out trying to steal signs and dress in face paint and all that stuff, you just have enough of it. You just got to clean the slate after a while.
It's 100% right. Arthur goes back home. I might have been. Well, I've already started combining the home trips, so maybe this is where he talks to the woman in the elevator. But it doesn't matter because you already heard about it. Then this is more of him taking care of his mom. He gives her the bath. I think this is where they talk about Thomas. Why would Thomas Wayne help you? That was like 30 years ago. He puts her to bed. He then goes out to be shirtless again for Nick's approval to really show off his fucking ribcage, which is just so fucking disturbing here. But also play around with the gun while he watches some old movie. He starts kind of doing like the whole "you talking to me" thing, and then shoots accidentally. Immediately turns up the volume on the TV. Runs around completely terrified of everything that's going on, right? And his, mom from the other room is like, "What was that?" He's like, "I'm watching a war movie, Ma. Don't worry, Ma." You know what I mean? That's how he gets out of it. Ma, it's all. That's the end of that. From there, we have the gun. Do we go straight to the children's hospital? I feel like that's too quick.
No, I think it's a little
though.
bit later, but we can.
No. This is where he follows her. He follows.
Right.
What's her name?
Oh yeah.
Zazie Beetz.
Zazie Beetz.
Her name is
Zazie
Sophie.
Beetz? Zazie? Sophie. We're just going to call her Sophie from me because I've never heard this woman's full name and she seems cool. Sophie then goes, she leaves and she left and then she's at school with her kid and Arthur's there and he's got like a hood up and he follows her. And then she works at a bank. So she walks to a bank and he follows her there. And then it looks like he might follow her in, but the last second he turns around and leaves. From there, we get follow up on this comedy stuff. This is what I was talking about. He's at the comedy club and he's sitting there and he's laughing at all the wrong things. He's not laughing at the punchlines. He's laughing at the setups. And then he's like looking around as other people laugh at the punchlines, trying to put it all together of how
Alex Salamita effect, right?
Oh God, I'll never watch a movie with Alex ever again after that first time. I want to just give a quick shout out to I think all of these comics, if I remember correctly, are real comics.
Gary Goldman.
That he cast. Yeah, Gary Goldman was one, and I think as every time they go back to the club, whoever's on stage, they're actually real working comics. So there's a guy that tells that parking Saxon parking lot or parking joke, which I think is hilarious. I forget.
Yeah,
Arthur Fleck performs at stand-up at Pogo's Comedy Club in Gotham. Pogo the Clown was the stage name of real-life professional clown and serial killer John Wayne Gacy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's terrifying.
That's not great.
That's another.
So he goes
one of
there,
these things,
and
like, okay.
That's a little on the nose. Yeah, that's a little on the nose there.
he
Get a
learns
big
from
round
everybody.
nose.
He sees what they're doing. He takes his notes, right? And it's like sexy jokes are always funny.
Good job, John.
He goes back home. There's a knock at the door. It's Sophie. She's like, "Were you following me today?" And he's like, "Yeah, I was." And she's like, "I was kind of hoping you come in and rob the place." And he's like, "I got a gun. If you want me to come back, I can come back tomorrow." Which is, very off color, but also like very like ooh, but like a funny ooh. Yeah, Nick.
But I think this is so tastefully done, right? So like you didn't. When I first watched this movie, and you didn't realize he was like making all this stuff up in his head. You were like, "Oh, he's actually kind of." Not charming, but he's much more well-spoken. And actually, I'll just say a little bit more charming than he normally is in these situations. And it's such a sleight of hand. It's like, he's actually, that's fun. He's vibing with someone and that's so cool. And he's actually a little charming. And he's actually, maybe he's coming out of his shell a little bit. And then when you realize he's been imagining it all, it's such a gut punch.
I totally disagree. I hate like the moment they started talking, I was like, I don't believe this at all.
Oh, I knew in the theater it was fake. Yeah, I was waiting for them to pull it back.
Well, I guess I just love
every bit of dialogue between them. I was just like, what the hell? Like, how could she possibly be into him?
But I don't know, Tim.
I guess I'm a sucker.
I wrote it off as like just bad writing.
So did I, which is good.
No, but like when that reveal finally hits, that makes me go, oh shit, okay. I kind of really dig that big twist and reveal at the very end. But all of these scenes, because when this scene happens, I'm like, wow, this is like a really unbelievable kind of conversation. And then we see later on after the people are killed, and she looks at the sign, she's like, you know what? I think he's a hero. And I'm like, nobody would fucking say this shit. And so I think that it's all better. And I think this is the one sort of thing that I do enjoy having being fake because of its Arthur's, sort of mental state. Mm-hmm. I do think that's the one big reveal that makes you go, oh shit, I dig that. It reminds me of Scorsese Shutter Island.
Oh yeah.
Reminds me of moments that
I love the reveal when he comes back and when he's actually in her apartment and she's kind of like, hey, Arthur, like
your name's
that is
Arthur,
so
right?
good and it's such a gut punch. But then for them to immediately follow it up and actually show the audience like all of the past stuff, I'm like, that to me, that shows that there has to be something deeper in this movie that I'm not sure is there.
I was right with you, Tim. I doubt it is there, honestly, Tim, but I was right with you. It was like when she walks in and just goes, what are you doing here? And she's scared. I go, Oh fuck,
shit.
this is
No,
awesome.
it's-
And I don't need anything
yeah.
else. Like I
It's-
think that right there is perfect enough to just show that without showing all those little flashbacks.
Yes, to me, it's when she goes, because I was like, oh, okay, maybe he just took her by surprise. But it's when she goes, you live down the hall, right? And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, fuck. He has been imagining all
Well,
this.
let's not get
And-
ahead of ourselves, ladies and gentlemen, from this first
Right.
interaction where everything looks great. We go to the children's hospital where Arthur's working as a clown in his doctor's coat, and they're saying, if you're happy and you know it. Eventually, when they get to stomp your feet, though, a gun shoots out of, not shoots, but falls out of his pant leg.
Awesome.
He jumps down and gets it, scoops it up, and does like that whole shit to all the kids or whatever. From there, we cut to him being in a phone booth talking to his boss, who's just reaming him out, and of course, fucking fires him for bringing a gun to a children's hospital like a moron, right? This is where Arthur puts his head against the glass and then smashes it. Similar, we talked about earlier, but we didn't do the plot recap that I'm sure you don't need. But like when he was smashing his head against the Arkham State Hospital facility door in the flashback, the doctor did when he was like, "Sometimes I miss being in here or whatever, being in the hospital." From here now, Arthur's going home and he's on the train, and this is where we'll get to another scene we've already kind of talked about. Right? He's on the train. It's late at night. There's the woman a few seats down. The three drunk Wayne Enterprise guys get on, and the one guy starts, of course, being an asshole to the woman. "Oh, you want my French fries? I'm trying to be nice. Blah blah blah." Just being one of those fuckers. At this point, she looks over at Arthur, and he doesn't make a move to help, but he starts laughing. And of course, she's rejected these men. He starts laughing. They start thinking he's laughing at their rejection. So then they start making their move over to fuck with Arthur now, as Andy brought up earlier. They start singing, Sending the Clowns? Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Sending the Clowns. They get closer and closer, and then get around him. They take off his hat and put it on one of them, and they all start singing. And he won't stop laughing. Right? I think it's when he goes to reach for his card in the bag. They pounce, they grab him, thinking he's probably trying to grab a weapon. Which spoiler alert, he will be. They pull him up. They start beating the shit out of him. They push him down. They start kicking him. They eventually throw the bag by his head. And like we're going through tunnels, you're getting that like awkward like flashing light or whatever. And Arthur. Then there's a gunshot, and like it's him on the ground. He got the gun out of his bag. He shoots one of them. He shoots the other. He shoots the third one eventually, who tries to runs a little bit away. He stands up and he puts more into the guy who's down, or did he just get multiple on the guy? Doesn't matter. He's killed two of them right away. The third guy's been shot in the thigh. He runs out the back of the train car into the next train car, screaming for help. They're pulling up to a stop. The doors open. Arthur and him play this game of cat and mouse of like, is he getting off? Am I getting off? Who's getting off? Guy who's been shot gets off, starts trying to make a break to the stairs. Arthur comes over, guns him down a bunch in the back, drops him. He's dead. And then Arthur has this moment of realization of what he's done, and then takes off sprinting up the stairs to exit the subway.
One of the stronger scenes, I think, of this entire film is this whole train sequence, like from the shooting on.
Yeah, sure. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. So yeah, getting away from the song that was like not there for Andy, and I do think it was awkward, but I don't count as not being something I've seen drunk idiots on a train do.
I think that scene for me, the most realistic part is them reacting as if like the other people react is like, well, what's so funny? What the fuck you laughing about? Like getting mad at him and stuff. I think that stuff is, I think they nailed that little bit of dialogue, but. Yeah, the scene with the one guy kind of walking up to him doing the song and dance, and his other friends kind of like doing it too. If I were the third, I'd be like, "What are y'all doing? Like, what the fuck are you like this guy? Like, what are you trying to do to?" I don't know. It was just that I hated that song. I fucking hated it.
Real understandable. Arthur takes off running. He runs past someone who's coming onto the train. He runs past a few other people, and he's just sprinting down the street. Obviously, eventually, he's worried about people coming after him. Nobody's chasing him, but he worries about it. He runs to a public restroom. Shuts the door, holds it shut for a while, and then kind of everything that's happened washes over him. And rather than be mortified or horrified by it, he's empowered by it. And he starts doing the dance there again of like, I feel some of the weight of the world being removed from his shoulders, right? Again, it's him accepting who this is and what he's just done, and that this was the right thing to do. And he did, he's very proud of himself, obviously, as he dances throughout this thing. And again, he's feeling himself, right? This is like the birth of the Joker, even though he won't go full Joker for a second, but it's his first taste of it. And he leaves here, goes back to the apartment building, knocks on the door for Zazie Beetz. Did I say it right? She opens the door. He immediately kisses her and pushes into the apartment. She shuts the door behind him. Obviously, we all know this is fake, but in this moment, you're like, it's him fucking feeling himself, right? This carries over to him going to work the next day to clean out his locker. He's there, and one of the other, clowns starts talking to him about it. Like, oh man, is it true that you actually did this? That you went and got the gun or whatever? You brought a gun to a children's hospital? What are you thinking of, kind of thing? And Arthur's very much like, whatever, I forget what he says exactly, but he's like, it doesn't fucking matter. And then Randall, right? Yeah, Randall walks in and he's like, oh man, shitty deal, Arthur, or whatever. And then it's like, well, it was that the boss had mentioned that Randall had also mentioned that he had bought a 38 from him or whatever.
We're trying to buy a 38 from him, right? Like, basically trying to offload all of the blame onto.
Yeah, exactly.
Arthur.
It was trying to, just bury Arthur. And so, he's like, and Arthur bites his head off and is like, no, like it's your gun or whatever, but I still owe you for that, don't I? And then he leaves, but he comes back. He's like, I forgot to punch out. And he fucking punches the clock. And then he does another little dance down the stairs where he stops and, don't smile. He changes the don't forget smile to don't smile. And then kicks over the door and is out.
See, that was one of those elements that I think Andy's talking about where they just take it a little too far and it's a little too on the nose. Where it's
which part?
Now we're starting to get
the don't smile.
Tattoos on people's faces now.
And the punch out too.
The punch out I didn't like. I liked this. I liked the signing, and then I also liked again in the theater when he kicked open that door and it was blinding white, and then it slammed and he left.
Oh, see, I like the punch out thing because I think he just has obviously issues controlling his emotions, but when that rage bubbles up, I think you need to see that someplace.
Yeah,
and I think we've seen it once before where he was kicking the thing, but that was in private, and this is the first time we see him like rage on something in front of other people, and it's kind of foreshadowing things to come. But I
was fine with that too, Nick. But the sign thing, the scribbling is very much like it's very much damaged on Jared Leto's forehead.
That's what and I think if they had just again the frame could have told the story itself, right? Where if he's walking down the stairs and it said "Don't forget to smile," and that's the last time he's going to come in here, I think that could have been more impactful than him stopping and being like, "Where did you get the grease pen from?"
Yeah, that's
a little bit weird for me.
From there, he's still feeling himself, which leads to him. He goes home. He's got no job. He goes home and he's again shirtless on the couch, smoking grits, eating cereal, and they're watching Thomas Wayne on TV. And this is again where I'm mulling running for mayor, and these clowns are, these were three good young men from Wayne. It's not Wayne Enterprises, it's Wayne something. Wayne, whatever, from Wayne, and they got gunned down by this guy, and it makes sense that he's got a clown mask on. He's a clown. People like this are clowns, again, which will be interpreted by the city at large. That Arthur has this thing where he leans back and he's smoking, and his fucking ribcage is just disgusting. But he's got the nervous leg where he's tapping his leg. I like how that comes up throughout the thing. From there, we're back to the hospital. This is where the doctor breaks it to him and like, hey, guess what? Funding's cut. Like, it's fucking over here. Nobody cares about you. You're right. Nobody cares about you. Nobody cares about me. Nobody gives a shit about any of us. Like, he's like, it's not a very endearing message, right? Or whatever. And basically, you're on your own. And which to him is he's off his medications too, right? Because
he asks her, right? He's like, where am I supposed to get my meds from now?
Yeah.
And there's just no answer.
This shit sucks. I don't like this because the therapist needs to be better. It's like you assume went to school to get this job. It's like there's so many like ethical things that you are responsible for, and for her to be like, yeah, no one cares about you. Like, I don't care how bad on your luck you are, you have a responsibility. And it's like it just kind of like read is so awkward to me where I'm like, I don't believe this. Like, I know that even if you're down on your luck here, it's like, and if your shit got defunded and stuff, it's like, do you ever want a job again? Because that's not the attitude to have there.
But I think it was just
that definitely happens though, Tim, that people get disenfranchised, and they, especially if you have a patient who, in her mind, maybe isn't being cooperative like him, isn't doing the journal, isn't taking that seriously, and not to mention it's the talk of like what the caseload would be for somebody in this position if it existed, and they're doing that thing where they're taking basically every time you've heard a bad thing about a medical care provider, right, and being overworked, and trying to boil that down and make this the one case of it, I guess.
But so Tim, you have a problem with her actually saying that to him, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that could have been in his head, right?
Oh no, absolutely. Yeah. That's true. That's another thing also, there where it's like it probably was.
Didn't this actually happen where like a bunch of
Reagan shut down.
Reagan in California, right? Which is why we have a pretty well. That's why a lot of people cite the homeless issue in San Francisco stems from that, where they're just there's not a lot of places they can compel people who are homeless to go to. That's why they're on the streets.
I very highly doubt that these therapists said that stuff.
Well, I mean, I think the idea is thematically. I mean, this is supposed to be like the cascading effect of society failing from the top down, right? Where like funding gets cut because of a political issue that is bigger than anyone can control. Then by the time it gets to the therapist, she feels like she's disenfranchised as well and just has given up. But then what does that mean for the people that really need help? And that scene to me is so fucked up, where he just asked the question, where am I supposed to, basically saying, where am I supposed to get help from now? And she's just like, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know. And
Figure
it's
it
like,
out.
it's just, it's fucking horrifying. It's terrifying.
So from there, Arthur is going to go do stand up for the first time. He's got his joke journal. He goes out there. I think we all know this pretty well, right? His laugh overcomes him. He can't speak at first. Then he's able to finally get out a joke. And then he looks at the crowd, and Zazie Beetz is there, and she's smiling. And they pan back to him, and he has another punchline. And then we hear the crowd laughing, and we see him, enjoying the spotlight. And it seems like everything's going really well. From there, he then goes out on a date with Zazie Beetz. Did I get it right? Yeah, okay. They, are having a great time. They're going around. They go to a donut shop. They walk through. This is when they walk through the newspapers, right? And there's a whole bunch of the headlines are all about the clown, or all about Joker and how this happened. And he does like, he's like, and she's like, I think he's a hero or whatever. And he's like, yeah, bye. You know what I mean? Everything's on cloud nine. Everything's finally coming up Arthur after he's gone off his medication and lost his job. From there, he goes home, or they go home, I guess, but he goes to his house. He goes in there to take care of his mom, who's asleep. He, wakes her up, gets her to bed. You smell like cologne, because he dances around. He's like, I just came back from a big date. And then she's like, cool. And there's a new letter I wrote for Thomas Wayne. Make sure you mail it. Please mail it. You know what I mean? But don't forget to mail it.
And also don't read it. It's like, of course I'm going to read this one.
Of course. Yeah. This is, I finally had enough of you sending these things for presumably years. I don't know, as long as the garbage strike's been going, if not longer. He cracks into this thing, and sure as shit, yeah, I see it's a letter about, your son and all this stuff, and that Arthur is in fact, according to the letter, Thomas Wayne's son, the product of him and Penny having a love affair. From there, he tries to confront Penny. She locks herself in the bathroom. He's pounding the door, but he wants to calm down. And, she's screaming about all this different stuff, and that, Thomas Wayne's a good person, yada, 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 yada. And I think they have a conversation here about how this would affect them and who they are and stuff, like in mayoral prospects, but whatever. You understand what we're driving at. You saw this fucking movie. That's why you're watching an interview. From there, it's what I was talking about earlier, where, now that he has this information, Arthur is going to head out to Wayne Manor. So he gets on the nice train, not the crap train, or not the crap bus he rides out to Arkham State Asylum or whatever. The nice train where he rides it out into the country, where everyone is reading the newspaper. All the newspapers are talking about vigilante justice and the clown or whatever. He gets off, he walks up to this lovely estate, and there is a young boy in a turtleneck or cashmere pullover, I don't know, playing on his, sweet ass jungle gym of things, whatever.
Going down the little bat cave thing.
Exactly. Arthur sees him.
This was another one of those moments, the elements that kind of stuck out to me. I was like, why would that be so close to the road? Why would that be in the front yard?
What's the driveway, right? I don't think that's the road. I think it's the driveway. But
it's such a long driveway.
This entire scene's so unfortunate.
It's such a long driveway, but the kid's like with the gazebo where he's playing, or whatever it is like right near the front gate. I'm like, why would you build anything there? You got this 3,000 acre yard. Put it in the back of the thing where no one can see you.
You might as well have had like a baseball bat and be like, grab that bat, man. Like they might as well just throw that.
I feel like this scene was really cool until he put his fingers in the kid's mouth.
That was
it
strange.
just gets so weird and creepy.
Because I like that Alfred came.
Isn't that what they want? They want it weird and creepy.
Yeah. But so Alfred comes out. Like we assume is that Alfred?
Yeah,
it's got to be.
Like he must know,
British.
right?
They don't let British.
He's
people
listed as Alfred Pennyworth in the.
But like he must know then what's going down with Penny, and like.
Yeah,
he has probably in on it, right?
No, he knows her. Yeah. If there's something to be in on, like that's the whole point of this.
Sure.
Or Alfred scoffs at it, right, and then gets grabbed and pulled up against the thing. But it's like, is he scoffing because? I mean, does Alfred know the truth? Does Alfred think it's just what Wayne said, that she's crazy? We never had a relationship, and okay, Mr. Wayne, I take your word for it, kind of thing.
Right. We just don't know. We're never gonna know.
But I feel like he would know the truth, regardless.
Well, Michael Caine would, right, Andy? Would Michael Caine know? Hey, Michael Caine, what's happened? What are we having for lunch today, Michael Caine?
Today we are going to have some minced garlic with
With no, you have to say with
Fucking garlic.
Minced garlic.
The main course is minced garlic.
He said with. Let him get to it.
We're going to have some minced garlic with some red potatoes. That's it.
Corey Cudney, I'm
Alright.
going to need you
Sounds
to
pretty good.
gif out Andy's face getting into character. That was the doofiest looking thing I have ever seen
Look,
you do.
man,
Your
I'm
queen was spot on
method. You know,
saying that,
Joaquin
man.
Phoenix lost 30 pounds,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
I gotta get.
You ate
I
some
have
garlic.
my methods as well. I have my methods as well, everybody.
Minced garlic.
I like the scene. I agree with you. Why is the thing so close to the thing? You know, there's a secluded family. Yada,
That's
yada,
a
yada.
nitpick. That's a nitpick.
But I enjoy it. I enjoy this interaction. I didn't see it coming when we sat down for the Joker. I wasn't expecting it, probably stupidly or whatever.
I
but
didn't enjoy it. Oh, sorry. I thought you were.
No, I was
bro.
because I know you already said you didn't enjoy it. Go ahead.
Well, I didn't enjoy it because so much of it was like not believable. Like, let's just start with a 9-year-old kid letting a strange man put his fingers in your mouth.
Tim,
Get the
I
fuck
put my
outta
fingers
here.
in your mouth all the time, and you like it. It's
I
fun.
know you though. Like, that's different, right?
No, he doesn't- he doesn't put-
I know this is the cop out we've talked about the whole movie, and I'm not saying it justifies it, but to me that didn't happen. And I know that that's such a cop out. I'm not saying that's okay, but like I do agree with you. That is such a leap in logic that I don't think Arthur really did it.
But then so if that's the case, then even if it didn't happen, then why is the scene here? It's just to tie Batman to the Joker, and it's just like, all right, like that to me is not interesting enough
Part
to
of the
have the
scene-
scene be as weird as it is.
Part of the scene for sure happened because Thomas Wayne refers to it
Yeah,
afterwards.
no, I'm not
You're the
saying
guy
that.
that came to my house,
I
yeah.
definitely think that happens. Yeah.
See, I think it happened. I just think
I
it's
just-
the kid was like, I mean, you're a dumb kid. You don't know what the hell's going on. Someone does a magic trick for you, like cool, you know. And then, yeah, he
Cool,
just goes
dude.
through, hey, man, awesome magic. I mean, and also you guys have to remember this is the
The next
80s.
trick, I'm taking all
Simpler
your teeth.
simpler time back then, Greg. If I showed you a magic trick, you'd go with me anywhere.
But then he also puts his hands on Alfred, and Bruce Wayne, little baby Bruce, is sitting in the back, just not doing shit about it. Like,
See, that's what I mean.
if I like, you're like, like this is, you know, like I would have been yelling and shit, you know.
Yeah.
Forget
I
everything
feel
you
like
know.
when a movie does that, when it's like, when the excuse could so easily be like, well, that didn't happen. It just weakens it so much, you know?
Sure. See, but see, that wasn't my interpretation of a lot of these events. Like, I think that those elements that he was imagining are few and far between. I understand how people could interpret that way, but I think some of these scenes were just not that well crafted, and I think this is one of them
Again,
that sticks out to me as being like, we could have reimagined this a little
It's
bit.
open to your
differently.
interpretation, and the actual Greg Miller interpretation of it is that everything happens except for the Zazie Beetz stuff. Like that, the thing
Yeah,
that we're shown that isn't
that's
real
mine as
isn't
well.
real. So I
Yeah.
mean, like I enjoy the discussion of it, and I enjoy the conversation of it. Like, it does that do it? Blah blah blah. But like, I do think that he did put his fingers in the mouth and Bruce didn't move. And it's like for us to sit here and be like, what the fuck? Like,
be terrified.
yeah, but like, I mean,
be
like, and I without like getting into really murky territory, or not even murky, I just shitty territory. Like, bad things happen to kids all the time because they don't know like what's allowed and not allowed.
Yeah,
And is it that
yeah.
Bruce Wayne, who's in this ivory tower, who has never been approached by anybody and doesn't run and doesn't scream because he just doesn't know what the fuck's going on? Is that part of it? Is that I don't know what the fucking interpretation it was for the writer and why he thought all that would happen and not do it, but like. Kids. I don't mean this as a joke. I mean, because I was gonna say kids are stupid, which isn't. Kids are inexperienced, and and that leads to all sorts of fucking horrible things.
They don't know how to deal with these situations. That's how I read this too. where
I
I thought he was just like, "What the fuck?"
You're
is
an
going
adult,
on?
and I listen to adults, and you're doing this. Okay, are you the
Right.
dentist? I don't know.
Get the feeling that the scene was made to be like off-putting and weird, but I feel like it goes too far and it like takes away from the moments we have beforehand where he, like, you can tell he's kind of like he's gone there to talk to Thomas, but now he's looking at this kid with a different like set of eyes where he's like, oh, this is my brother, you know, in his mind. And I just wish they had done it where, like, instead he just says something creepy, like, smile. You have to smile to make them think you're, you know, something weird, Joker-esque. But instead, it just
I
goes...
liked this because it was, for me at least, a direct callback to the opening scene, right? He's doing it because he just did that. And he knows Arthur knows his face so well from sitting there and doing makeup and fucking with it that he feels like if he does it can I see myself in Bruce? Can I see whatever my father, who's a question mark, in I guess my mom too? Yeah, can I see? Well, I guess can I see my mother and my father in this? Does his face react the same way mine does? Is what I read it as.
I think if Chris O'Donnell and Robin made an appearance in this movie, it would be way better.
I agree.
Hey, Chris, what do we have for lunch today?
Miss Garlic.
No, we're not. I don't want to hear his Chris O'Donnell impression. All right.
I don't think I don't have one.
So yeah, he lays hands on Alfred, which is a bad move, but Alfred gets away. Alfred does imply that I know this Penny thing, and there's nothing going on. Arthur goes back to Gotham, where he finds his mother being wheeled out on a stretcher into an ambulance. He gets in there. She collapsed and hit her head. This is a weird, again, to my thing is where I do believe that the way I interpret the movie, whatever, that like the main stuff is this, but like here, there's a whole thing that goes on with how this happened, who called this for her, whatever, if she hurt herself,
I thought
doesn't
it was the cops.
But why aren't the cops there to immediately greet Arthur Fleck? Why do they meet him at the fucking thing? You know what I mean? If I'm questioning your mom, or I guess if I'm a police officer and I'm questioning your mom, Nick, and she goes down in the middle of an investigation, I would think we would still be on scene. We wouldn't be like, peace out.
It's one of those situations where you know, like the guys they just robbed the bank and they get pulled over and the cop's about to look in the car, but then they get another call. It's like, hey, there's a 192 on highway 192. And you got,
oh my God, 192 on 192.
This happens once every 2
driving
decades.
192 miles an hour over there. Fuck. So anyways, they go to the hospital. She's put into the hospital. He's outside smoking. The cops come up. They were questioning her. That's what led to her having, you know, this thing and falling down or whatever, because they were there to ask her about Arthur, because of course he was the clown and he had brought a gun to the thing. And you know, I don't know if you know, this fucking guy killed a bunch of people dressed as a clown and he had a fucking gun. And Arthur is like, whatever, fuck off kind of thing. You know what I mean? I'm in the middle of this. Like, I don't have time for your shit right now kind of thing. Flicks a cigarette, goes back inside.
Slams his head onto the door.
That's man, like, you know,
oh
what I mean?
yeah, that's an exit only. Exit only.
Guys,
that was such a Joker moment where he slams it and then just like, obviously he did it as an accident, but that's such a Joker thing to do. Like I could see Heath Ledger's Joker doing that. I don't know. I just kind of read that as like, wow, what a really unsettling thing to have happen to him at that moment.
Back inside, Zazie Beetz is there, but she's like comforting him, but she's gonna get a cup of coffee. He'd like a cup of coffee. She leaves the room. Murray Franklin comes on, and this is where Murray's like, I got a tape from Pogo's. Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Pogo's nightclub over there. Man, that sucks because Pogo is a corn dog up in Canada. They must have really been pissed off. They must have really been pissed off.
Now they can't sell them anymore. I heard they had to cancel all of them.
Really
Corn dogs.
Robert De Niro's like, here's this video from Pogo's or whatever, and let me tell you, it's something. And they start playing, and they're just making fun of it. You know what I mean? Like, he's not good. Every time he does a punchline, Murray Franklin comes back to fucking dunk on his ass. You know what I mean? He's like, this fucking sucks, and you suck, and this is all fucking garbo or whatever. And he's like, he gets all mad, but he's on there, and it's like, I was on TV, but I wasn't on TV for the right reasons, kind of shit. And so then mom stays in the hospital. He goes home. Okay. He goes home, and he's surrounded by like kill the rich shit, like everything that's going on. There's a protest. Maybe he's watching TV, the news. He's watching the news, and they say that Thomas Wayne's going to be at this fucking fundraiser out where the protests are. Like, the poor people are protesting where the rich people are going to be. He knows Thomas Wayne's going to be there. I digress. So he goes down there, and it's like the Opera House, but they're doing this Charlie Chaplin movie thing or whatever. I was like, all right, cool. And outside, everybody's dressed as a clown, and they're all like, fuck the rich and fuck Thomas Wayne. He's going to be a shitty mayor. We don't want him to be the mayor. He must have heard here, right? This is where Thomas Wayne on TV kind of recants a little bit of like, I'm not saying everybody's a clown. I'm saying the person who killed the people are a clown, not the poor people. You're not clowns. Some of you are acting like clowns, but you're not all clowns. And so Arthur... there's this giant protest. It's really, it's heated up out there. One guy shoves the cops. There's a scuffle. Arthur uses that to duck underneath a thing and go in through like the service entrance of this theater or whatever. And he gets in there and he finds an usher's outfit and puts that on. Yeah, Nick Scarpino,
Sorry, I was gone for a little bit. Did we talk about how odd it was that this is the senator from The Dark Knight Rises?
No, we've ignored that part.
It's so odd. I'm like, what's the casting?
You know what I mean?
I didn't even think about that. That's great. Yeah.
Yeah, the fact that I have here is Thomas Wayne was supposed to be Alec Baldwin, who
that would have been great.
Confirmed for the role. And then the day after it was announced, backed out due to scheduling conflicts.
Oh, that's too bad.
Nick,
I think Alec Baldwin would have been just like De Niro. It would have been too hard to see past Baldwin.
You're just bumping into shit.
Well, that's right, because they talked about how they were when that casting came out. I think they were talking about how he was like, this character was supposed to be a little bit more like a Trump style character, and then Alec Baldwin coming in seemed like a good fit or something like that. But I'm glad they didn't either. I'm with Greg on that. That probably would have been, in hindsight now, that probably would have been a little distracting.
The theater scene was distracting to me and weird. Where so Arthur comes in with the puts on the whatever the hell it's called, the
Usher outfit is what I call
Usher
it.
outfit, and then they're watching this play, and like, what was the direction to the audience of just continue laughing, laugh every 3 seconds at whatever the fuck's going on, and I'm like, this is so fucking weird. Go back and watch this scene. It's extremely weird.
It's
how
weird.
often
Tim,
they're
it's a dude on rollerblades. Come on, man, that's fucking hilarious. You know what I mean? He's just more.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to take shots at Charlie Chaplin and his comedy, but it's just like, would you still get uproarious laughter, 50 years after it originally aired? I don't know.
Just no.
I've seen that scene. I've seen it more from the technical thing of how they did, like, making it look like he was skating over this giant drop when in reality he wasn't or whatever.
Coward.
But it's just coward. I don't know, man.
That's why he never made it in the business. Yeah, he's always too scared to commit.
Anyways, though, he sees Thomas Wayne to get up to go take a piss. Is this important, Kevin?
Nope.
Okay, to take a piss. And so he sees that and he slips off over there and he goes in the bathroom. He takes off his Usher outfit and Thomas Wayne's taking a piss in what is a really nice urinal. Just a really, really nice urinal.
Bang up
one day I aspire to have that much money to have a urinal that nice in my house.
I'd like
It's
to
never
pee
gonna
next to you in
happen,
that
Nick
urinal.
or Greg.
Doesn't matter, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Let me just let me know. I'm never gonna get there. Great for you, it might, but Nick, just fuck
Nick,
you,
not a
you're never gonna
chance.
get there.
Not a chance for you. You know what I mean? And so Thomas Wayne's like, "What's going on? You want an autograph or something?" He's like, "No, I'm Arthur Fleck. I'm Penny Fleck's son." He's like, "You're the guy who came to my house yesterday." And he's like, we know the scene. He lays it out of like, "I know everything, Dad." Like this. And he's like, "I never had sex with your mom. You were adopted." Yeah, go ahead, Nick.
So, Greg, you're in a bathroom, right? And some guy comes up to you and says, "Hey, I think you're my dad." And you yesterday, your probably overpaid at this point British butler tells you that some random dude put his fingers in your kid's mouth. Do you A, have a civil conversation with this guy, B, call the cops, or just C, blinding rage,
Knock him the fuck out.
knock this motherfucker out and call the
We
cops?
don't even know if
You're a
Bruce
billionaire
can't
also.
We don't know if Bruce can speak, so he might not
can-
have been able to
okay.
like actually tell him that he put his fingers in his mouth.
Fair
You know what I mean?
He's like
We didn't
9 years
see that.
old.
He never says a goddamn word, though. You know what I mean? Quiet as a church mouse. But yeah, if somebody touches, what have we named my child yet?
Yeah, it's young Greg Miller Jr.
Young Greg Miller Jr. If somebody touches young Greg Miller, I'll fucking kill him. You know what I mean? I will bathe that
Devastator.
beautiful urinal in your blood, Arthur Fleck. If you fucking show your face after that.
Yeah, Thomas Wayne's got to be thinking like,
Yeah,
exactly. Greg,
Fucking
there's no
dead.
cameras in the
Violence.
restroom. Nobody's gonna see. There's gonna be no witnesses. Nobody's gonna know that you walked in there and you were there at the time that this man is on the ground, beaten and bloody on the ground.
Sure.
Just knock him the fuck out. Greg, they should have cast you as Thomas Wayne in this fucking
I've
movie.
been saying it for a
Because
long
here's the
time.
thing. Here's the thing. It feels like there's about the same age difference between you and Joaquin Phoenix and Joaquin Phoenix and fucking Thomas Wayne. And there's not, but it's like they look the same. They're the same age.
Do they?
Dude, get one of those makeup pens, give me crow's feet. I'm 62. Nobody, you know what I mean? I blend right in.
Exactly.
I feel like he looked a lot older.
Oh man, Tim, while you were gone, I murdered him in the urinal.
Classic Greg.
Classic Greg. My wife just slammed the door. So yeah, everything I just said happened. Thomas lays it out. She was admitted to the hospital. You were adopted. This is all not a real thing or whatever, but you are the guy, touching my kid or whatever. He does punch him in the stomach, right? He's like, if you ever fucking come by
In the
my
face.
house again, I'll kill you.
Right.
Face, was it? Yeah, you're right.
He
Because he
bleeds.
keeps calling him dad and he won't let it go. And so, yeah, he bleeds over the beautiful sink that I hope one day to be able to afford for my house.
Nick, never gonna happen.
Joaquin Phoenix, aka Arthur Fleck's like, I'll get to the bottom of this. So he goes to Arkham State Hospital, and he goes up to the records department, and the guy there, who he's a character. Oh, he was in the new Child's Play. He was the cop in the new Child's Play. Child's Play cop. He comes back with it. He's like, sorry, anything older than 10 years. It's 30 years ago, so I had to go down there get it. I got it. Arthur acting increasingly unhinged, head against the mesh and asking all these questions like how people could get in here. He's just like, I did something really bad. I thought I'd feel bad about it, but I don't. He's like, what are you talking about? Like, what are you going on about right now, man?
That's the point where I'd be like this. If there's a little tiny opening, if there's a little gate, I just kind of start shutting the gate.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Just locking myself behind this bar and be like, I need you to leave, sir.
Instead, he doesn't. He continues to engage. Yeah, go ahead, Kev.
I was just saying, this scene is so just unbelievable with like people's personal information. Like, there's no way the dude would be like,
80s.
all right, let me start reading parts of. Oh, this is about you. I'm gonna close. You know what? We're not supposed to read this to people. So what I was doing 2 minutes ago, that was really wrong. And now that I know it's about you, I'm gonna stop.
It's a little bit
Come on.
weird.
Come
That was a little
on.
weird saying.
We didn't
Love this
have
actor
HIPAA
though.
violations.
Also from
back then.
Atlanta. He's
Who
great.
is?
The guy, the actor.
Oh, okay. The Child's Play cop.
He's like the main character in Atlanta.
Okay. Is Atlanta
rapper
good? Should I watch
Cooper.
Atlanta?
You
I
need
heard
to
good
watch
things
Atlanta.
about Atlanta.
Oh,
It's
what's it on?
fantastic. FX. It's on Hulu.
Yeah, I was gonna
Okay.
say I think it's on Hulu.
Anyways, yeah, so he reads through the thing and he's like talking about like abuse and her being admitted and the adoption. And he's like, oh yeah, I can't do. Arthur grabs it. They struggle for a second, but then he runs away with it. And he has a very unique run, Arthur Fleck. I want to point that out. Good job on him.
I wonder if they, because Dee pointed this out. She was like, did they just make him wear like shoes that were like 5 times too big for him? Because his shoes look comically big, like a clown, and when he runs, he has trouble running in them.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that was a choice from the production design.
He runs on the stairwell and starts reading it, and all the stuff we've kind of hinted at and talked about are there. You know, he's adopted. I love the fact that, you know, so many people were hung up on comic book fans like, oh, the Joker doesn't usually have an origin. We don't know his name. That's how it should be. Yada yada yada. I love that. You know, this deep into the movie, right? He opens it up and you find out that he was an abandoned child, so he has no name technically. They gave him Arthur Fleck, but that's not his name. I like that they kind of in the most. We're going to make a grounded Joker film. They kept that as much as they could. You know what I mean? I thought that was neat. But yeah, then this is where the abuse is laid out. This is where he reads the interview somebody did with his mom upon admittance to the hospital, right? Where she's in the psychiatric ward and she's there all like, not comatose, but like disassociated. And she's got a black eye. And, you know, they found him chained to a radiator. He had been beaten by her boyfriend. She had been beaten by her boyfriend. What did she know? What didn't she know? That kind of thing. Really setting up how fucking horrible Arthur's life was.
Is it standard procedure for hospitals to clip out newspaper clippings?
In the 80s, yes.
Okay.
Microfiche, very expensive. You know what I mean? So they didn't have that kind of machine at
I just don't think that like
Nowadays,
that's medically
Kevin,
relevant, you know?
Yeah, nowadays, Kevin,
yeah.
they would just take notes and write them in that little like
Yeah.
those pieces of paper in the thing and just say, hey,
Yeah.
this person suffered this, like
Right,
refer to
right,
this
right.
police report or whatever. But back then, you wanted a little like context for everything.
Yeah. It keeps
Keep in mind, back then it's like they didn't know what they were doing. It was they had two things: are you sane or are you crazy? That was it. And if you were crazy, they put your clippings in there, the file, and they put you in the quote unquote loony bin.
Yeah.
Also, on the other side, maybe there'd be good coupons.
Great point too. Great point.
Right
too.
in coupons.
That's always the fun thing. Like when you take down your Christmas decorations back home and you find out like what year the lights are wrapped in the newspaper of. This is back in the day, obviously. Now
Why are you
everybody
wrapping
wraps them
lights in newspaper?
Oh, lights can break because they're glass. So if you wrap them there, they're padded, so
You
they
don't
don't
keep
break
the
as
box?
much. No, not back in the day. Your parents didn't. Maybe you're
Didn't
obsessed
believe
with
in
parents.
boxes.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah.
No,
Different
I
time.
understand.
The 80s were crazy.
Yeah. So
After
from here,
Reagan.
Arthur, it was all Reagan's fault. Arthur's life's falling apart. He walks home in the rain. He goes to his apartment, not his apartment. He goes to Zazie Beet's apartment, and door's not locked. This is a problem. Lock your doors, everybody.
It's a
You know what
bad
I mean?
idea, yeah.
Especially if you live in a bad part of Gotham. And I understand you got a kid going in and out all the time, but even in nice buildings, you can do it. Back in my old apartment downtown, I walked into the wrong apartment twice. Because you get off, all the floors look the same. You walk all the way in. They didn't lock their doors. I opened up. I'm in somebody else's apartment. Lock your
How'd
doors.
they take that?
The first time, very shocked.
Yeah.
Very shocked. And I didn't know them that well at that point. They were the above neighbors. But back then we used to party. You know, we were close to IGN. We come home and party. So then after that, I had a lot of like 12:30, 1 in the morning visits from them. So we kind of knew each other from that. So the second time I was very much like, sorry guys, and shut the door and left. But you thought after the first time,
Lock
where
the
they
door.
were, yeah, exactly. They didn't.
Yeah, because if I'm people living in an apartment and an 8'4" man walks into my house, I'm just calling it. I'm
Anyways,
in
he
it.
walked in there. She's putting her kid down. He sits on her couch. She comes out. She's shocked. She's like, "Oh my god! Like you're in the wrong apartment." And then it's like, "Wait, you're Arthur, right? You live down. Do you need me to call somebody? Should I call your mother?" And he's like, "I've had a really bad day." And it's super unnerving. Again, did they show it here where like they go through the flashes and it's clear this is all fake? That everything we saw before is fake?
Yeah.
It's all fake. From there, then he walks back down his apartment or the hallway to his apartment. We don't know what happened in there. You know what I mean? Left to your interpretation. He goes into his apartment. That's when the lights are and sirens are going. He's, I think, smoking and laughing on his couch, right? While this is happening. He then goes to this. He's feeling himself, right? This is the Joker rising. The Joker rises.
Yeah.
He goes back. I know you're waiting for it. That's the you knew I'd get there. He goes back to the hospital, right? Oh, I totally skipped, by the way. Sorry. Didn't I? Yeah, I totally skipped somewhere. Or is it here? Let's just say right around here, he gets a phone call that he answers. No, he kills his mom first. He kills his mom. Then he goes back home and takes everything out of his fridge and goes in the thing like he's going to kill himself. But then he's just like living awkwardly in his apartment, sad and lonely in his whitey tighties.
Is that how people kill themselves? That's what that was? Because I was just like, what an awkward scene where he like put himself in the fridge.
Yeah, I mean, that's how, like, if you remember, like, don't know if you remember, but like when I grew up, because I'm old and Nick's old too.
Yeah.
You were told all the time,
Don't
if you
get in the
see a refrigerator out on the street to be thrown away, I'm not kidding. Don't get in the fridge because you'll die.
The way those
hold on, let me talk. I'm telling the story. I'm telling the story, Nick.
I apologize, Greg.
It's
Andy,
fine. But
tell
it
us
was
what's
that,
going on.
I was always like, that's the stupidest thing in the world. You can kick open a fridge really easily. But what they're talking about is like the 50s fridges that had those big metal deals on them. They'd shut and lock from the outside, that you needed to pull the handle to open the mechanism, and there was nothing on the inside. So stupid fucking kids in the 60s and 70s, and not stupid, again, kids who just don't know any better, would be playing with their friends and play hide and seek or whatever and climb into a fucking fridge and die in it. Because it's
How
airtight.
common was it for fridges to just be on the streets?
It was common enough that
Common
me and Greg had probably an abnormal fear of refrigerators growing up.
Oh shit! Do we need to add to the list, Nick?
Definitely. That's like number 6 on the list for me, Greg. Of course, quicksand lasers in the 80s. Definitely terrifying. You didn't want a laser anywhere near your eye. It was going to fucking just go burn through your skull. And now, of course, our grandmother's refrigerator is the most dangerous thing in the house for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Policemen would go to schools and warn children. You gotta be careful with fridges and strangers putting their fingers in your mouth. It
was syringes in the playground, and then it was razor blades in Halloween candy. So those are the things you had to just really watch out for. Yeah.
I'm trying to find how. I'm trying to get you more.
It takes so much energy, doesn't it, Greg?
No, I'm trying to get you refrigerator stats on kids dying here. By the mid 1950s, deaths were not uncommon for children in the United States. For example, statistics in the 18 months of January 1954 to June 1956 show that 54 children were known to have been trapped in household refrigerators, and that 39 of them died. As the issue rose to prominence, people were asked not to abandon refrigerators and to detach doors of unused refrigerators. At least one state, Oklahoma, enacted legislation making the abandonment of a fridge with a latch in a location where a child might find it illegal. As early as 1954, alternative methods to securing airtight closures had been suggested. The Refrigerator Safety Act in 1956.
This was the important one.
Christ.
Greg, I'm glad you got to this one.
Was a U.S. law that changed the way refrigerator doors stay shut. It was codified, blah, blah, blah. The act applied to all refrigerators manufactured in the United States after October 31st, 1958, and is largely responsible for the adoption of the magnetic mechanism, which is now used instead of the latch.
There was so much discourse about Joker, about, it's going to inspire so much hatred, so much. I didn't know that it was going to inspire the return of the dreaded fridge, but here we are.
The fridge discourse, yeah.
So
Literally,
anyway,
my parents used to tell me, if you're going to go into the fridge, take a jacket.
So anyways,
Oh my god.
he kills his mom. He goes back home, and either he gets the call there or ignores the cop calls, or he got it earlier and I forgot about it. But he goes back home, and now it's like prep time for Murray Franklin. So he starts watching videotapes of other guys being interviewed on Murray Franklin and how they came out. And he put up a shower curtain so he can practice and do all this shit. And he also then shows us that he's going to kill himself on Murray Franklin's show, right? He has a gun. That's his whole thing. He's going to kill himself there and do the thing. And from there, we go into now it's the time to birth the Joker thing, right? So we get another montage number.
I just want to say really quick. Joaquin Phoenix, like, phenomenal in this sequence. Like, I love him fighting with himself and figuring out what exactly he's going to do and trying to get it down right and getting visibly frustrated with himself. All this scene, I think he did such a damn good job in.
Yeah.
So yeah, he starts painting, or he dyes his hair first, right? And he's shaking it all around. It's a montage, so it doesn't matter. He's doing that, paints his face white, paints his tongue white, finds the photo that said, "I love your smile," right? Or "Your smile's so great," from Thomas Wayne or whatever, crumples it up. I fucking killed her and I'll kill you too, Thomas Wayne. But not directly. While he's waiting and getting ready, there's a ding dong over at the door. He grabs a pair of scissors and goes to answer it. I would assume thinking he's going to be the police, or also just not giving a shit, right? He's completely gone now. Instead, it is Gary and Randall, they come in and they're like, "Oh, I heard about your mom. We brought you a bottle of booze." And Randall's also like, also they're, still asking, those cops are still around asking about the murders and stuff. And they're asking me a lot about me. So I need to know what you said about me or whatever. And he's like, "Oh yeah, no, that makes sense." Oh, also he had been smoking. He put out his cigarette on the wall and made a smiley face with it. He's like, "Oh, that makes sense." And he fucking stabs Randall in the throat and then a bunch of times in the eye, and the blood sprays off the neck and everything else into his face and onto the wall. Randall goes down. Just a phenomenal bit of acting here from Lee Gill, who plays Gary. Just his screams of like, "Arthur, why? Like, oh, Arthur, why did you do that?" It's like so fucking like, again, this whole
real.
This whole movie is obviously, I think, made to make you uncomfortable and be not an uncomfortable experience, which is what I talked about earlier about like not being an enjoyable film. But again, this scene I feel is on such another level of, I remember being in theaters like, oh my God, again, because what we know of Gary is that he is a nice guy. He is nice to Arthur, right? And also he's getting picked on all the time too at work. So when Randall's killed and Arthur just sits down next to the body, the tension there, right, of Gary not knowing what to do and Arthur being like, "It's okay, you can go. I'm not going to do anything to you." And then it's like that thing of like, me as a comic fan or whatever, I was like, what version of the Joker is this? Can you take him at his word? Is he like what? And it's like when he comes over and he's like, I'm just screwing with you. And then like when he gets to the door and he starts, he's like, can't get the lock.
Yeah,
oh my God.
I do think Lee Gill's performance is obviously really good and convincing in this thing, but then it's made even better when he sees the body and has that visceral reaction. Like, oh shit! Like what the fuck? Like it's so good, dude. This is like.
What would you say it is, Andy? What would you say this is? Would you say that it is your
secret delight?
I don't know if it's the
Batman returns to the Dark Knight. It's Gotham's finest secret delight.
Gary's my secret delight.
Lee Gill's performance, yeah, I'm putting that in here as Gary Joker. That's a great one, Tim. Good call.
Like the fact that the Joker didn't kill him. That is actually my secret delight, because I was like, don't do this together. Come on.
Yeah, I did love that, and I love it in such a, not that I love it, you know what I mean? But I think this scene is so good and so and even my third viewing, I'm still like,
for how I feel about this movie, and I'm not super high on it. I think there are like really good, damn good standout scenes, and this is one of them where the acting is just sort of carries it. And I thought they did a great job.
So now the Joker is fully realized. We have him in full paint, the full suit. He gets in the elevator, goes down, then he dances down the stairs to the Chicago Bulls anthem song that I believe is written by a pedophile, and that's why everybody flipped out about this scene. And we didn't know that, obviously, when we used it for the Chicago Bulls. I assume, I don't know, I was like 9 years old.
I don't know anything you just said.
Yeah,
I wish I didn't know.
Yeah, Greg, I was with you with the refrigerators, but we're off the reservation here. I don't know where we're at.
This is the type of thing I don't want to know. Let's just move on. I love that song, and I want to
like to address it so people know. All right, that you know what I mean? Yeah. Here it is. Everything I said is correct. And this is the CNN headline: Joker. Well, thanks for blurring it out now. I got to see this ad for Shop Now. Huh? You seeing that? Joker uses a song by convicted pedophile Gary Glitter. He's probably making money off of it. Go get into that on your own.
I always associate that song with "We Will Rock You" by Queen. They are such anthem songs. They are such Bulls, 90s Bulls, like NBA anthems. I don't know why I thought like, oh, this is Queen. Even though I know it's not Queen. I don't know why. It's stupid.
So Joker descends the stairs, not a care in the world, dancing, stomping, smoking his cigarettes. Also, Nick, how bad do you want a cigarette watching this film?
At first, really badly, but by about halfway through, I'm like, God, it's just too much. It's just too much.
Yeah, he's chain smoking.
And then by the end of it, I'm like, I really want a cigarette.
The cops that we talked about earlier, who is the one dude from Boardwalk Empire and the other dude from The Outsider, and now the new voice in Forensic Files 2, by the way. They're like, "Hey, Arthur," and he's like, "Oh fuck," and he just takes off running. They're like, "Oh fuck," they take off running, and everybody's running through the streets now. Arthur gets hit by a cab and just takes it like a champ, just smashes the window, rolls down, and keeps running. Eventually running to the train, getting onto the train. The cops run down. They're like, "It's the train!" They get on the train. Everybody's going to the Joker rally, the protest downtown. They're all wearing Joker masks. They've got their faces painted. Arthur keeps slipping further and further back in the cars. The cops keep giving chase, and they're, screaming like, police, police. They got their badges out and shit. At one point, though, like third car in, Arthur, or I should start calling him Joker. Joker takes the mask from one dude who turns around and then, or pushes Joker, and then another dude turns around and hits the guy who pushed Joker, and then a full-on scrum happens. Joker puts on the mask and fades back a bit. The cops show up. They see Joker in the back. They have the one guy from Boardwalk Empire has his gun drawn. He's like, freeze, shut on. And then another guy who's just there, is yelling at the cop. Then he grabs it and struggles for the gun. The gun goes off. That guy goes down. And the entire train car turns on the cops and grabs them. And it rolls up to its stop and the doors open. It's just mob justice. They pull him out. Everybody pours out of this thing. Joker pours out a thing, takes off his mask, does a little dance in the eye line of the cop, drops it in the trash. Goes about his way because he's going now to the Murray Franklin show. And so, because he's going to do his presentation there, he's going to do his whole thing there. And so I'm trying to think, I don't skip anything, right? It's from the subway to Murray Franklin. He's backstage. I think, right? I think I'm right.
Mm-hmm.
He's backstage.
Yeah. Yep.
He's already written whatever he wrote on the fucking window. I don't know. Then fucking take a smile, eat a pill. And so he's there and he's doing more of his makeup because he got to touch it up because he got all fucked up on the train. Murray Franklin shows up at the door alongside Mark Maron, which is just another I understand it's a why, and it's just like I love Mark Maron's got a great podcast and he interviewed Obama and he's great on the show that got canceled, Glow. Thank you. And it's like this is all great. Mark, you're a bit too you're one of those that why is Mark Maron he pops up and it's just like what? Mark Maron,
a good producer though.
He does. He's not bad, Kevin. You would have played it better from experience, But Mark shows up with Murray to give him the rundown. And Murray's like, Well, the initial conversation is, of course, there is a fucking riot outside of people dressed like clowns. There should be no, you don't get to dress as a clown.
I mean, that is the conversation, right? Like
it
Mark
shouldn't
Maron,
be a conversation, is what I'm saying. And Murray's like, no, is it a political statement? And Joker's like, no, it's not a political statement. He's like, it's not a political statement. He just wants to bring smiles and laughter to the world. Mark Maron, fuck off.
True. But also, but also this person that you're bringing on, it's not as if you're bringing on Johnny fucking Carson in a it's a random dude with a clown. Yeah. Face paint. It's like,
right.
Well, why are you putting so much trust into this random person you don't know? Being like, yeah, come on, we know him, we know how he thinks.
If Andrea Renee showed up for Kind of Funny Games Daily in Joker makeup, I'd be like, all right, whatever. If some guy I've never heard of that I'm giving the up and cover shot shows up dressed in clown makeup, I'm like, now it's weird, and we have to have a conversation about what's going on.
The amount of times that we've opened up Discord and Greg Miller's been in clown makeup.
But I'm Greg.
Yeah, you are. You are. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I don't know that you think we'd pivot that quickly. It's one of those things that 5 minutes before the show starts, I'm like, this guy's in clown makeup, Greg. You come in what? That's a lot going on.
I guess with Greg, I wouldn't.
I'd like
trust
to pivot.
I wouldn't trust it whatsoever. At any moment, would I feel trust?
Oh no!
If I see Greg with clown makeup, I would accept it. Greg, I would be like, "Oh, Greg's in clown makeup," but I would never feel safe. I'll say that.
Do you remember? We all remember Greg? Me, Andy. We all remember Greg Miller Industries, right? Where that was just sprung on us. We had 3 people sitting behind us for every show.
A-Rock sprung on you. It was definitely talked about in a meeting you didn't pay attention in, but yeah, it was sprung on you. Exactly how so anyways, they talk some more. He wants to be introduced as Joker. Why? That's what you called me okay, whatever. I'm fucking
see, that would have been my red flag. I'm like, okay, this guy's got a gun. He's got
whatever you say. You know what I mean? And so then the show's going and Joker's backstage and they start doing the intro to him and he's already doing his weird little dance behind the satin drapes or whatever. And the 2 crew members are like, what the fuck is going on? But no one alerts anything weird. The show's got to go on. And so they open it up. He comes out, does a little dance, shakes Murray's hands, makes out with the sex doctor they have there. That's their Dr. Ruth.
Which is a reference to Greg?
Dr. Ruth.
The Dark Knight comic. Joker's on the talk show. Yeah. Kisses a woman.
Oh, okay. So not the character. Okay, whatever. Good call. So he sits down and that starts the interview, right? And Murray is still making fun of him and doing stuff. do you want to hear a joke? Sure. He pulls out his joke book and he tells one. What was it about? Dead kids or something? I forget. It's something like that, right?
Yeah,
Anybody?
something
Doesn't matter.
totally
Murray's like, that's not what we're
color.
about on this show. You know what I mean? Like, you know, he's like, I'm sorry. I'll keep it more PG. And then I forget how they get into. He reveals he's the Joker. He reveals he's the guy. I killed those people or whatever, right?
Right.
And Murray's like,
he had a tough time since he had killed those people.
Right. And everybody's like, oh, they're like, that's not funny, boo. And he's like, I don't think he's joking. This is Robert De Niro again. I don't think he's joking. You really killed those men, didn't you? Yeah. And you think it's funny. I do, and I'm tired of everybody thinking it's not. I really like the performance here because it's just so unsettling and weird. And again, from going from Arthur to being the Joker, like I know it sounds probably goofy, but there is such a difference here, and just in the way he acts, talks, portrays everything, and interacts with everybody. But it's what we expect, right? Where this goes, Mark Maron is in eye line of Murray telling him to cut it, like just get out of this, like let's dump and move to something else. But Murray engages and continues to engage, and it keeps ratcheting up and keeps ratcheting up. And then there's the line that I'll probably butcher, right? But what do you get when you cross a mentally ill person with a system that's forgotten him or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. You get what you fucking deserve. And he blows Murray away, screams, everybody runs, right? Yeah. And it doesn't play, and maybe I'm sure in Tim's THX basement, it plays way different. But I remember so distinctly being in the theater watching this film and how loud that gunshot was, and then how loud it was when he put the gun on the desk, when he tossed the gun down on the desk. Because I remember, something we talked about in the original screencast review, I guess, was the fact that like you look at how Joker's been portrayed, and I guess I'm painting with a very broad brush here, but usually like there's a super high body count. And granted, by the end of this film, there is here as well. But like, for the most part of it, it's just those three dudes in the beginning that the Joker's killed until it becomes the Joker and kills a few more people. But again, it's not gassing the city. It's not the Niro's eating itself alive. It's not, Nicholson in Batman 89, right? And so I remember how powerful the one gunshot was to De Niro, and then the toss of it was there. And then he shot him a bunch after he was already dead, but it doesn't matter. I'm just saying how like what this movie's going for and how unsettling it is and how it kept me on edge for different reasons than a mass murder movie or something like that's going on. Mm-hmm. However,
I thought it was interesting that he killed De Niro instead of himself. Not the most mind-blowing thing, but I thought it's more interesting than him. Like if the movie had just ended of he kills himself and he becomes a symbol because of all this, that would have been like way lazier than what we actually got.
Yeah.
Everybody runs, obviously. He then walks over to the camera and tries to do De Niro's sign off of remember that's life, and they cut him before he can say that's life. Then we get the for technical difficulties things, but then as we pan out to all the other screens, we get more and more of the news coming online talking about what's happening and that Murray Franklin's been shot dead on his show.
Which, by the way, like I think is a terrible sign off. Like, come on, like it's an awful sign off. And what do we? That's life. And like it feels like they only have that as
life song.
They only have it for the song. Yeah, like I hate what Robert De Niro does it the first time. I was like,
see that's the part of me that feels so quintessentially like Carson's Tonight Show. That I did like that they just want to get to that. They want to get to their trademark sign off in song or whatever.
Yeah.
But I hear you. I don't know. News is reporting about. They're also reporting that like in the wake of this, riots have broken out across Gotham. Like people have taken the streets. The eat your rich kind of thing. From there, we see the pandemonium in the Gotham streets, and we have Joker being driven off by the police. His head pressed to the glass as he watches anarchy unfold at his disposal. That he's caused. Obviously, as we talked about it, there chief among this is the Waynes leaving the theater after seeing Zorro. And finding, Gotham in complete disarray, and then deciding to go down this alley, which is where one of the Joker dude in the Joker mask or clown mask sees them go, follows it down there, and rather than it be a robbery, it is a hey Wayne, like he knows exactly who this is, he knows exactly what's happening. He's not here for a crime of opportunity. He's here for, well, I guess it is a crime of opportunity, but it's a crime of passion, right? Of like this is very much in line with what has been bubbling here: the poor versus the rich, the have versus the have-nots, and to see the mayoral candidate here, this man who has called people clowns, called you a clown on there. That's what this, I assume, Joe Chill does, and it kills him. Then still yanks the pearls from Martha and shoots.
I couldn't believe it.
Come on, we didn't need the pearls. Can we stop? I never need to see Martha Wayne's pearls again. Period.
The pearls are the cornerstone of the DCEU.
I didn't say I want them erased from memory. I hope that in Justice League Snyder Cut we get 10 minutes of them
New
falling.
angles.
Yeah, exactly. While Screen Junkie XL or whatever the fuck that DJ's name is.
Screen
Screen Junkie XL.
What's his name? I can't remember.
Junkie, I think it's Junkie
XL.
Zimmer
Yeah.
and Junkie Funky Bar XL.
Junkie
or whatever.
XL.
Chunky XL, sorry. So that all happens, and then so then they're driving, and then bam, an ambulance hits the cop car. Oh, the Joker starts laughing. They're like, "Shut up!" The ambulance hits the cop car. These guys in clown masks come around. They look in. It is the Joker. They pull him out. They put him on top of the hood of the car. Anarchy in the streets unfolds around him. Of course, he eventually wakes up. I'm moving at a pace here. He stands up on the car. Everybody gathers around him. He kind of realizes what's going on. He realizes he's bleeding. He does his own blood grin there and kind of does another dance in front of everybody around him. From there, then it's back into Arkham, where he's being interviewed by a different doctor now, or therapist, and he does the thing we were talking about earlier, where he laughs, and she's like, "What are you laughing at?" And he's like, "It's a joke. You wouldn't get it." And they do the flash to Bruce in Crime Alley with the Waynes at his feet. Then they come back and they start up That's Life song, right? And it's Arthur / Joker walking down the hallway with his bloody footprints, dancing again all by himself. He gets to the end of the hallway, does a little move, then he gets chased by guards one way, and then he runs back, getting chased the other way, and the end screen pops up.
That's it.
7 syllables in the middle. You'll need 5 for the first and last line. If you're not poetic, no need to fret it. Haikus don't need to rhyme. Haiku in review. Haiku in review.
You can go to patreon.com/kindafunny, just like so many of you did, to write your reviews in haiku form. We got this one from Ignacio Rojas. The movie has some interesting concepts, but fails to execute. Zaid Wilson says, costumes, high on style. Music, went the extra mile. Makes me want to smile. That one. Blackjack, mental health declined. The system left him behind. Chaos, Joker dines. I don't know if that's my favorite one. Blackjack, I expect more from you.
Wow.
No, I think it's so good.
Bro.
Speaking of which, Tim, about a 3 out of 10 segue today, but let's keep on going.
To the,
Damn.
6.5 out of
haikus?
10.
No, to the
No,
ad.
to the
the
ad.
ad. Oh my God. Are you kidding me? That was like the worst ad. That wasn't even a segue. But it was like, we're talking about some real ass shit. I'm like, I gotta talk about what the golf. Oh my God, there is no segue. We're reading an ad.
No, that's why I feel like this one has an asterisk by it. I didn't even bother ranking it either. It's Thanksgiving weekend. Let's just
Thank
go
you,
with
Nick.
it. Let's just
Thank
roll
you.
with it. Give Tim a pass, everyone. Andy, give
Pass it
Tim a
up,
pass.
man.
Okay.
Ragu bagu me, please.
Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-now.
Ragu.
Dun-dun-dun-dun-now.
9.2 out of 10 on bag. Oh, pass. Okay, there it is. Bagu.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Rad Guys Talk Bad Guys, the podcast within a podcast where we rank the villains of the Batman in Review universe. In this segment we call Ragu Roga, Rad Guys Talk Rogues Gallery. You know the hosts, you know the thing. Right now, the list
I
stands
love you,
like
Blackjack. Just say it.
Number 1, Dark Knight, Joker and Two-Face. Number 2, 89 Batman with the Joker. Number 3, Roz and Scarecrow from Begins. Number 4, Babe from Rises. Remember, whatever I put in and it autocorrects to is how it works. Number 5, Phantasm, Joker and Phantasm. Number 6, Batman Returns, Max, Penguin, and Cat. Number 7, Batman and Robin. Number 8, Batman Forever, Riddler, Two-Face. Number 9, Lego Batman, Joker. And number 10, 66, Catwoman, Riddler, Joker, Penguin. Now, are we ranking Joker in this one? He's the bad guy of the film, correct? Even though he's the protagonist.
Yeah, but
Yeah, he
Just make sure.
are we ranking him as like how, like, is he like traditionally Joker or like how are we ranking this?
I don't know if
I think
you know
either
the
way,
rules
I
are
put it in
very
the middle
low.
somewhere.
They're
Middle?
very loose on Ragu Bagu on how you want to rank. You're just ranking the bad guys and deciding who you enjoyed most in these films is how I think of it.
I'd put him right above Lego Joker Batman. Lego Batman Joker.
You'd put him at number
third
9.
to last.
Yeah, you put him at number 9 above Lego Batman Joker.
I'd put him
Yeah.
right below Heath. Or like
You put
actually
him-
probably right below Nicholson probably, because I feel like this is just such a unique thing. But I mean, again, it's so hard because we're ranking these off of movies that were built to be enjoyed and rewatched,
Sure.
and this is not that movie.
Yeah,
This movie's
100%.
not. But you're not supposed to walk out of this movie and go, "I fucking loved that movie." Everyone should go watch that. You're supposed to walk out and go, "Wow, that's an experience. And like I was dreading watching this movie again because I it's so much of an emotional commitment, but I found it riveting. I think his performance alone should rank him high enough on that list.
I would put him like honestly right below Heath. Not necessarily. I mean, just being Joker aside, I just think Walking Phoenix was incredible in this movie.
Yeah.
I think
And if
his
we were
performance
ranking
alone.
acting, like yeah, sure, we should put it high. But like we're as a Batman.
Yeah, but
villain.
I've kept I've
that.
used that as a lot of how I rank in the past. Like for example, Cross, fucking hated that actor. That's why I had Cross so low.
You hate him so much, it's
He's
crazy.
terrible, dude. Terrible.
Yeah, honestly, I think I could. I don't know. I think I could make a case for him being number 1, but I'm happy to vote number 2 and be fine with it. So me, Andy, and Nick say he's number 2. So he's number 2.
There it is.
Ladies and gentlemen, your
That's
new
something
thing is
else.
Dark Knight at number 1 with Joker and Two-Face. Number 2, Joker from Joker.
Tim, where were you gonna put him?
Pretty low.
Okay.
You said middle of the pack, right?
Mid tier, yeah, like probably like around where Kev was saying, but it doesn't matter. Now it's time to rank the Batman movies. Kev, do we have this? Currently, number 1, The Dark Knight. Number 2, Batman Begins. Number 3, The Dark Knight Rises. Number 4, Batman 89. Number 5, Lego Batman. Number 6, Mask of the Phantasm. Number 7, Batman Returns. Number 8, Batman Forever. Number 9, Batman and Robin. Number 10, Batman 66. And number 12, Catwoman. It gets me every time.
I would put this below Lego Batman. I think the performances kind of carry this movie, and there's not a whole lot else here that I super loved. I like the movie. I think it's fine. I think it's serviceable. And for me, what I think makes it a better movie, in my opinion, is just that the fact that Joaquin Phoenix is so damn good in it. But I didn't love a lot of the movie. I'll say that.
I would put this at number 11. This is hardly a Batman movie, and it's just what it does for the mythos. Like it's interesting. I wish we had more, but also I feel like it's gonna be half-assed if it gets ever made. So I don't know. This just is. I don't like it that much.
I think I'm with Andy. Debatably, I would put it under Mask of Phantasm, but I think at the end of the day, I put it above Mask of Phantasm, under Lego Batman, where the idea of this was great. I think the execution was fine. It didn't hit the highs that I was looking for how grounded and how real the story is presented. Like, I don't think this thing does anything too unique. And if it does anything unique, I don't think that it really executes it perfectly in a way that we've seen before with the more grounded Batman story. Like, I watched Batman Begins, I'm just like, I can't believe a movie about Batman is this. I watched this, I'm like, I can believe a movie about Joker is this.
Mm-hmm.
But
see, I'm sort of the opposite, where like I agree with you, and I see that at that perspective. So I think I'm of two minds on this, where I think as a Batman movie that fits in this list, it should be lower on the list. As a general movie that tries to do something different, I think it does accomplish it, and I think it does help elevate the genre, in my opinion. Although I don't, if you would say, hey, every comic book movie needs to be this, I would vehemently disagree with you. So to me, I look at this top 5 that we have here, and to each one of these kind of does something different for the genre, which I really respect. And I know we had some mixed feelings on Lego Batman last week as well, but for me, Lego Batman is what the genre can be if it's complete farcical, crazy comedy with a lot of self-references, or like self references and self-awareness. 89 is like the beginning of it all, right? Dark Knight is where just the near miss. Batman Begins is great, and obviously Dark Knight Rises is near miss. Dark Knight is obviously like great. I would love to put this at number 2, but I feel like if we're ranking it on the scale of like a DC Batman movie, to me, it probably needs to go either above or below Lego Batman. Probably right below Lego Batman for me.
Yeah, for me, it's that class. Like in review, we always again have a similar to Ragu, right? Where I think it depends how we're ranking it, why we're ranking it, and what you're doing. And like, yeah, are we judging them based on Batman films? Then obviously, yeah, it's a Joker film. It's not a Batman film. But I think for the argument in Gotham and whatever we're doing here in the mythos, like it's a classic in review problem where I don't think it's better than
I think it's better than Dark Knight Rises, but I don't want to put it that high on the list. Maybe, I don't know. What do you think?
Well, that's my thing. Is like, I don't like Dark Knight Rises, so I would immediately put it above Dark Knight Rises at number 3. But then it becomes a conversation of how do I which feeling do I feel more? Not liking Dark Knight Rises or liking Batman 89? Because I wouldn't put it in front of Batman 89. So I guess I would put it below Batman 89, above Lego Batman. So at number 5 for me.
So let's do the voting. Okay. Is it better than Mask of the Phantasm? Raise your hand. Everyone except Kev. Is it better than Lego Batman? Raise your hand.
I'd say it is.
Just Nick and Greg, which means that the ranking is number 1, The Dark Knight. Number 2, Batman Begins. Number 3, Dark Knight Rises. Number 4, Batman 89. Number 5, Lego Batman. Number 6, Joker. Number 7, Mask of the Phantasm. Number 8, Batman Returns. Number 9, Batman Forever. Number 10, Batman and Robin. Number 11, Batman 66. And finally, number 12, Catwoman. That is the complete list so far of theatrically released Batman movies. Of course, we will return when The Batman finally comes out. But before that, next week, we're going to return with a Batman in review, where all of us will come with our own lists. We'll go through all of the different podcasts within a podcast. We're going to have a lot of fun. It's going to be, Gonzo for Gordo, baby. Like get hyped, get excited, I guess. You know what I mean?
You're going to get it.
It's going to be a ton of fun. Then after that, we will return after the Thanksgiving break with Karate Kid in review, which will take us through the rest of the year. We're also going to take a little pit stop in Nolan Land for Tenet on December 15th when it comes out. But besides that, we are doing Karate Kid, Karate Kid 2, Karate Kid 3, next Karate Kid, and then Cobra Kai Season 1 will be its own in review, Cobra Kai Season 2, and then Cobra Kai Season 3 when it comes out in early January. Nick, how do you feel about that?
Oh, God, I can't wait. This is my dream, and you're all making it come true.
Until next time.
Same bad time, same bad channel, everyone.
Yes, baby! It's back next week!